Jacinda, why are you running away from the tough question? Why are you running away? Like a coward. No Jew can believe you're going to keep him safe. You came for a photo op.
Today I spent the entire day at the site of the Melbourne Synagogue, which was firebombed overnight. I have a full report coming over the weekend. But for now, I want you to watch and share what happened when the Victorian Premier came shamelessly for a photo op and a press conference at the burnt place of worship, but was met with real journalism. Then make sure to head to protectthejews.com.au and sign my new petition, Standing with the Australian Jewish Community.
What would you say to a big proportion of the Jewish community that blame you personally for not acting on anti-Semitism properly until now? For the last year, we've seen this. We've seen protests outside synagogue. Even in the last week, it's taken a synagogue to be burned down for you to come here and make a statement.
Well, over the past 14 months, we have seen how conflict, and this is something that is conflict over the past 14 months, has brought conflict to the streets of Melbourne, the streets of Sydney, to many parts of the Western world. And my focus over that period of time has been to support members of the Jewish community who I know from speaking to so many personally are grieving that conflict in the Middle East, as so many other people around the world are. So my focus is on the Jewish community, is providing the support. That is why we are here today, pledging that $100,000 commitment to get the ball rolling on rebuilding this place of worship and sending a very clear message, like we are with the legislation that's in the Victorian Parliament, that this sort of evil act has no place here in this state.
Why haven't you done anything for the year and a half till this happened? Why did it have to take a burning of a synagogue?
My focus today is on supporting the Jewish community.
Can I just ask a quick question? Jacinta, you mentioned that you're going to increase police patrols and you're going to increase your presence. Is that not a sign that you've lost control in this state and the Jewish community are now under real threat, and that your government has ultimately failed? And let's be clear, in November 2023, there was an attack in the synagogue, and the Summary Offences Act gave Victoria Police the ability to charge them under that act, a very low threshold, but you didn't use it. And had you done that, we wouldn't be here today. So let's stop with the politics and let's get a short, sharp, straight answer. Have you lost control? Have you lost control, yes or no?
I will take advice from Victoria Police. I will take the advice from the Victoria Police and the Chief Commissioner, who advises me that in terms of acts of violence, they have the tools and the powers to investigate and prosecute people.
So it would be you've lost control. You've lost control.
It would be deeply inappropriate.
You played politics, and this is the consequence.
Premier, why should the Jewish community, Premier, why should the Jewish community...
Can we just calm down? Yeah, thank you. Can we just take our time?
Premier...
Excuse me, sir. Thank you.
It's okay. She's the Premier. I think she can handle it. Premier, why should Jews now trust that you're going to keep him safe when you failed a year and a half?
Can you just step
I
back
understand she doesn't want to answer it.
No, the cameras.
I don't know who you are. Jacinda.
Well, she knows the story.
Jacinda, we understand the questions got tough, but how can the Jewish community believe that you're going to keep them safe when you failed for a year and a half? Jacinda, we understand it's easier to run away, but what would you say to the Jewish community for them to believe that you could keep them safe since you failed them for a year and a half? Look at that. What are you doing? Why are you blocking my way, mate? Jacinda, why are you running away from the tough question? Why are you running away? Like a coward. No Jew can believe you're going to keep him safe. You came for a photo op. She came here for a photo op. She got the photo op, but members of the Jewish community asked legitimate questions and she failed them. She's not going to keep any Jews safe. She wants to get voted back in. That is the Victorian Premier. One thing's crystal clear. Jews are no longer safe in Melbourne, Australia in 2020. Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast. How are you doing, Rukshan?
Mate, glad you're back from slacking off. You know, everyone was wondering where you were on Tuesday night, and I had to, pick it up and do my own show in the meantime while you had done a disappearing act. So, welcome back to you. What happened?
Was it successful without me?
There was a lot of people who were happy, actually, to be completely honest. So,
were you considering that's it, not coming back at all? Make them happy, or do you enjoy the rage watching?
I like the drama, so I'm here for the drama. I do like the drama. So, and you bring a lot more drama than myself, so that's always entertaining.
That's just a natural ability I've always seemed to have. Yeah, no, I've been enjoying the school holidays with the kids, the wife and kids. We went away for a few days, so I actually pre-recorded a bunch of my reports this week and had the team working all week while I slacked off. And now I'm here Thursday night, major hangover, ready to go.
I think you need to be hungover for the next couple of stories, so it makes perfect sense.
Totally. So let's just go through the general remind everyone how it works. We want to welcome all 1,448 of you right now tuned in across the platform. So whatever platform you're on, remember to like and share this stream so that we can get that number way up there. It's up to you guys at home to help us grow this community that we're growing, and it is cool. It is growing. So if you're looking at our last few episodes, it's really grown. So I appreciate everyone that tunes in on Tuesdays and Thursday nights and gets involved in the conversations. The conversation you're seeing below is it on the right hand side? So below me is my YouTube comments, the chat live, and below Rukshan there is his YouTube chat. So you can actually get your comment on screen just by getting involved in the chats on YouTube specifically. And then, of course, all the super chats, we will read them out. So anybody that sends a super chat, whether it's a comment, a question, prompt some sort of conversation, get involved in the conversation, we'll read it out. Or if it's just a super chat, like I see one coming through now. So we'll get to those throughout the show. We have a packed show. Was there anything else I'm missing, Rukshan?
No, that's about it, I think. No, that's it.
That's it? Have you taken any time off, or you're still...
No,
Lydia Thorpe doesn't give you time off?
No. Actually, Parliament starts back up next week, so who knows what happens then. I'll be a little bit more busier, but I'm actually going full into this, so, doing my own show as well.
A lot more live streams you're doing. So, guys, make sure to head over to... A lot more live streams. Go over to Rukshan's, even if you're on my stream here, make sure to go over Rukshan's channel, give him a like. It's called charity. We all do it. Subscribe to the channel, and make sure to hit the notification bell so that when he does do his lives, especially when he's competing with my lives, you get some choice. But aside from that, we'll get straight into it. Let's read a couple of the super chats that come through to begin with, so you give you an idea of how this works when you super chat.
Cruel Intentions, regular. How you doing, mate? Good evening, ladies and perverts. That might be applicable to the couple of stories we've got coming up as well. So.
100%. Good evening, Cruel Intentions. And good to see you back. Like I said, we've got a community growing here, and I'm recognizing some of these users, and it's cool to see it.
Yeah,
including Brett.
Brett, thanks for the super chat. Brett, evening chaps, as the legendary Mel Brooks said, as long as the world is turning and spinning, we're going to be dizzy and we're going to make mistakes. Great. That's true. Definitely. World keeps spinning.
There you go, guys. All your super chats will be read through the show, but let's get straight into it. So the first story that I had on for tonight was this, I guess, chilling video. Let's watch it and then get the kind of reaction. I know this happened on the last couple of days while I was away. But I haven't reacted. I don't know if you did on your show, but let's go and have a watch anyways.
Hello. This is an anonymous communique by the cell that torched three
Get the volume up.
beloved technologies on the morning of July 5th, 2025. Let there be no illusions as to what this was. This was not an accident nor thoughtless vandalism. This is a clear and serious threat. If you continue making weapons components of any kind, there will be consequences. Consider this a warning. After 21 months of an accelerated genocide against the Palestinian people by the illegitimate Zionist entity, 8 decades of American warmongering and imperialism, 2.5 centuries of the most violent colonial oppression, ethnic cleansing, and murder of Aboriginal peoples across so-called Australia, Lovett Technologies has chosen its place at the intersection of these catastrophes. Lovett was the first Australian producer of components for Lockheed Martin's F-35 fighter jets, proudly deployed in service to colonialism and imperialism by America, Israel, Australia, and the UK. Lovett was targeted because it is a bottleneck in the supply chain. This factory has the Makino T1 milling machine to make precision titanium and aluminum components. When it was acquired, this was the only machine of its kind in so-called Australia, and only one of 10 in the world. 15 suppliers to the F-35 supply chain, including Morad Ferrer, HTA, Levitt, AW Bell Quickstep, and Varley, all depend on Lovett, in addition to its subsidiary Electromold. Lovett is also a supplier to BAE Systems, Israeli weapons company Albo Systems, and manufactures components to Boeing's F-15, F-18, the so-called Chinook helicopters, and the Ghost Bat, an armed AI-powered drone. Every worker in this supply chain is complicit. You have had years to contemplate the consequences of your actions. We will decide your fate, as you have decided the fate of millions. For the past few months we have been closely watching you. We have your addresses. All the information we have about you will be distributed to our underground networks. Stop harming Israel or else. That the tools of colonization and imperialism are manufactured on stolen Wurundjeri country is no accident. The illegitimate Australian state only becomes a greater colonial and imperial power with its involvement in these supply chains. It is an affront to this sacred land and its true owners, who know genocide, that these weapons factories exist to continue another. Genocide begets genocide, and violence begets resistance. We are behind the enemy lines of this genocide, and it is our duty to attack the belly of this colonial imperialist beast at every opportunity. If you are watching this, you can do what we have done. Place half a slab of fire starter into each paper bag. Place one bag under the front and one under the back of the Tayeh.
I actually am gonna pause that because I
Yeah,
think he
we
probably get you in trouble for. But
yeah,
basically, there's instructions there on how to and this is I
firebomb
guess,
vehicles.
yeah, firebomb places. Although it's pretty like I don't know.
And liberation will grow from our ashes. Death to Israel. Death to Australia. Death to America. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
I mean,
So,
there's a
your
lot to unpack. There's a lot
Yep.
to unpack there. I did share this because clearly we do have now these homegrown terrorists in Australia. Some people are actually trying to make excuses for this, which is insane. But at the end of the day, this is homegrown terrorism. Now, you can have disagreements about weapon systems being manufactured in Australia and things like this, but again, these are legitimate businesses. Australia has a right to produce weapon system if they want to and sell it overseas. Like we're a free country as far as it comes to businesses being able to take part in these ventures. But what's really terrifying about
who's defending it? Are there actually people on?
no, there's people. There's the default position of people who are defending this individual is, well, what about the genocide that's happening in Palestine? That's what they'll say. Or
Yeah.
well, it doesn't matter. He's a legitimate reason that he's doing this. So and I think the problem there is the fact that he's making threats against Australian businesses. One, he's making targeted threats to individuals, saying that he's got their names and addresses. So it's a very serious threat that he's making, obviously he's masked up like a, you know, actually even the ISIS terrorists will show their faces sometimes when they're making these type of threats. So this coward, he's hiding behind a mask. He's threatening the public in Australia. He's threatening businesses, and this is not on. It should not be acceptable in Australia whatsoever. It is homegrown terrorism, and the counterterrorism police need to stamp these kind of individuals out and throw them out for good in terms of, you know, locking them up somewhere, or if they're somehow illegitimate in terms of their residency here, kick them out of the country, because we cannot have this become a normal thing in Australia where you have. Look, I think this sounds like some type of anarchist, sounds like, you know, some type of Antifa crossover. I don't think it's like an Islamist or a, you know, radical Muslim extremist. Just from the manner that he's talking about Australia and colonialism, and, you know, the war on Jury land and all this kind of nonsense, it sounds like a far left wing Antifa.
Although the Islamists have adopted it, but I agree with you.
They've adopted it as well, but I don't even think they're this insane.
And I guess that's my takeaway from this. When I watch this, and I unpack it, it demonstrates everything I've been raising the alarm for over the last almost 2 years. Well, since before October 7th, I've always warned, because remember when there was the protest, Antifa versus the Nazis, and, you know, I pointed out they both looked the same, and they both were calling Free Palestine at the end. And this is before, you know, months before October 7th. But the interesting point here was that he's demonstrated everything. I'm saying, like, all the arguments, everything that they campaign against against Israel, is the same arguments they make against Australia. And this, for context, was following the attack on the Melbourne-based business, targeting all the cars, and these are direct threats to the people that work there. So Australians that work there, they're not Israeli. They're probably Ocker, like they're Aussies, and the random Aussies. This is just like the company that they work for, that these guys claim manufacture some sort of part for a weapon, whatever. Yeah. Like, I don't even know how true it is, but it doesn't really matter. Like, weapons manufacturing is a legitimate business. Like, and it doesn't matter to these guys. Like, if they deem you a legitimate target, like you're a restaurant in Melbourne, and they find some twisted way to justify their anarchy and their attacks, and here they will firstly incite people, encourage and teach people how to carry out attacks on their own, lone wolf attacks, kind of like, you know, you see the parallels between that and groups like ISIS, because that's how ISIS operated. Like, you know, you could loosely affiliate just by carrying out an attack and waving their flag, and that's what these guys are essentially saying. But they're making all, you know, like the way they sign off, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, always was, always will be Aboriginal land, because this is like, it's the same thing. And if you're jumping and you're getting convinced by these people's baseline argument, which is Israel has no right to exist, well, get ready, because they also think Australia has no right to exist for the same argument, even though when you unpack the argument, in Israel's case, there is more legitimacy, you could say, than Australia, because what are the three ways, and I go over this with everyone, is what are the three ways that make that means that, like, a legitimate state is recognised? When it comes, you know, the conservative right wings generally say by conquest, which is why they don't subscribe to any of this nonsense when it comes to Australia. The left say via indigenous rights, which, if you argue in Israel, if you go back far enough, like they love to go back 65,000 years or whatever, they're up to 80,000 maybe, whatever. In Australia, well, in Israel, all you have to do is go back 3,000 years, and you can see the indigenous people were long before Palestinians were ever mentioned anywhere. Like, if you look at the Old Testament, New Testament, the Quran, they all talk about Israel. None of them talk about Palestine. So just from a historical point of view, the indigenous people on the left should be arguing Israel. And then, of course, also the recognition by the United Nations is like kind of an international recognition. So all of those, so in Australia we have conquest and obviously recognition by the United Nations, but we don't have the indigenous argument. In Israel, they almost have all three. But it doesn't matter. The point, like, we're going off again, the point is, remember who and what you're fighting for when you jump or you defend it. That's why I'm surprised you're saying anyone is defending it. Like, the only people I could see defending it are far left-wing lunatics.
No, there was a lot of people defending it, and not directly. It's almost defending it by like turning the other way, turning a blind eye to it, saying that this is, because that issue is so massive in terms of, the humanitarian crisis. Therefore, these type of acts become more legitimate in the West to stop it from happening. Like that overrides everything else, and I think that's a massive mistake to make as a society. So, these type of people need to be stamped down. Authorities need to get very serious about this, because it only just emboldens more people to join these type of movements. And then what you have is, these homegrown terror cells terrorizing the Australian public. And you saw his commitment. He's willing to do it, at least this single individual, and he's also willing to give instructions for others on how to vandalize or burn properties or burn cars. I mean, that is dangerous, especially considering the fact that they did say that they have people's names and addresses of people that work at a business that he doesn't like. I mean, that's crazy. That should not be
how
tolerated
true it is.
whatsoever.
Who knows whether it's just blowing.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know for sure.
But it should be taken seriously. These guys,
Yeah.
They are committing acts of vandalism and violence. They are willing to engage in violence, and they're inciting others to do so. And notice on the footage, like, he's got the Palestinian flag at the back, he's got the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander flag at the front. They hate this country. They refer to Australia as so-called America, so-called Israel, so-called. This is a worldview, and this is a worldview like the old cliche is, first they come for the Saturday people, then they come for the Sunday people. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is exactly what this is. And if you excuse it now and you don't speak up and stamp it out now, who do you think is going to be there to speak out and stamp it out when they're targeting everything Australian for the same reason? Which they already do, but you're enabling them. That's the problem here now. They've done this for years. We've known these guys for years, right? These Antifa mob that have, kind of gotten away with a lot in Melbourne, especially over the years, but they didn't have the public support. The public has always been outraged by them. Across the board, almost. It was literally just the fringe left that supported him. And now, if you're telling me that there are people from, the centre left, the centre, even the centre right, or the fringe right, that are supporting them because they support that one issue, you are making a massive mistake.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I've noticed, Tayeh, is for a lot of these groups, their hatred of Israel and hatred of Jewish people tops everything else. So because of that, it's blinded everything else, and they're not even seeing the issues that arise from having these type of homegrown terrorists now in Australia. Like, did we really used to see these type of videos coming out in Australia?
No,
I mean,
no,
I can't even think of another instance really in recent memory, at least, where you have these kind of ISIS-style videos of people standing in front of flags threatening the local population with acts of terrorism. I mean, that should frighten everyone in Australia. And some people are saying it's a false flag, it's a psyop. Even if you take all that into consideration, right? Police and authorities still have to take this seriously and find out who this individual is, because it can't be normalized for sure, and there has to be a pushback against it.
Well, I think anybody that thinks that this is a psyop is either naive, or just because you're watching this and you recognize how insane and dangerous it is, the only way you can justify it is by saying, no, it's clear, it's so crazy, it's made up for people who want, to use it to garner more power for the government wants more power, so they need something like this. That's the argument I imagine that they're making, and it's like, really? Because there's no new laws any government needs to stamp this out. This isn't even about hate speech. This is literally incitement to violence. So I'm not sure what you think the benefit is. Like, there's plenty of other easier ways to do it. And you and I have been, doing this for a few years now. I've done it even longer, where I know which group they come from, and I'm sure the police also know which group. They've been around for a long time. They've been this radical for a long time. You're just noticing it now because they're talking about this issue that you may be sympathetic to. And what I'm telling you is, firstly, your sympathies are misguided and misplaced. And what I've been telling you for the last 2 years is that when they're done with Israel and when they're going to come for Australia too. In fact, they have started in Australia. You just didn't notice. But it is not a psyop, and it is not a joke, and it is serious. And if you don't demand that the government clamp down on these domestic terrorists, well, I'm sorry to say for you, when you realise it wasn't a psyop, when you realise it was serious, it might be too late.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, this hatred of Australia that we do hear from, death to us. To say death to Australia, I think, to say that it's illegitimate is one thing, and to question the history of the country, I mean, fair enough. We can do that in Australia, and there's very legitimate grievances that people might have with the history of this country. But to wish death to Australia, and these people might turn around and be like the Iranians when they say death to America, we mean for the political.
No, we know what they mean.
We know what they mean.
We've seen them for years, marching on Australia Day, burning the flag, saying that they want the entire country to burn. It's this same mob. We know what they mean. Something that people should learn from the Jewish community is when somebody tells you that they hate you and want you dead, believe them. Because if you brush it off, at some point you're going to realize, holy crap, I shouldn't have just brushed that off, because by the time you realize it's real, it's often too late. But yeah, and also, you know what, guys, you don't have to like Israel. It's fine. I love Israel.
Well, I mean, look, for me, it's got nothing to do with Israel. It's got nothing to do with Israel. The fact that he's making threats to Australia.
No, I'm saying, but people that are watching this, you need to go, like, if the lens that you're looking everything through should be, if you're living in Australia, is loving Australia more than anything. So if you're finding that your hate for Israel goes beyond your love for Australia, maybe think your position over. Think about it and ask yourself why. Why have you been taken for this ride that you hate another group more than you love your own country?
Yeah, that's legit advice. I think that's the way to look at this and approach this, because there's no reason whatsoever that this should be excused.
All right, let's read a couple of super chats and move on to the. I think there's the next story, but let's read the super chats that we love so much. Baz, welcome back.
Thanks, mate. Hello, opposition chat. So hello from Baz. Remember the Baz tax? I think
Baz tax. That's right. The jizya, the Bazzy. Thank you, Baz. And then we just have Catherine, who first dropped a super chat for.
Thanks, Catherine.
Fun,
always appreciate you watching.
And then Catherine mentioned the Burgatory boss. Yes, we've got that coming up. Settle down. You're going to give away our whole show before we start. Okay, so let's pull those down. We'll get to that soon. Thank you so much for the super chats, and welcome to the chat tonight. Here we go.
Found Hope, thanks for the super chat. 3.52 seconds with that video. His eyes were lit up. I think Found Hope noticed something in the video. 3.52.
Let's pull it up. 3.52. Let's take a look. Let's see.
There must be some hints or indications of how this individual was. I mean, imagine we had a ISIS-style, very legitimate bomb threat made against Australia. You would hope that the authorities in our country could find people.
Oh, there you go. I think it's the reflection on the glass. They're wearing like sunnies or something. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Look, I'm sure the police are going through that. There is clear evidence of a crime there, incitement to violence, incitement potentially to terrorism, which would carry.
I think it's terrorism.
I think it would carry a significant punishment. Thank you, Found Hope. Thanks for that pulling that one up.
Varan, thanks for joining in again, mate. Shalom, Rukshan and Avi. Yet handsome boys does nothing, nor does any of our governments. How is it okay that the only person who have linked to the attack on the shul is out on bail again? Baz jizya.
That's our next story we're going to get into. That's a good segue, but I totally agree, and we'll unpack that story in about a minute when we're done these super chats. But thank you so much for your super chat and joining in as usual, Varan. What has Baz said now for the Baz?
For the Baz tax, he's paying the Baz tax. This is
definitely not Tayeh. Tayeh doesn't pay any of his tax. Thank you, Baz.
Cruel intentions. Thanks for the super chat. Antifa and Islam are both perfect hotbeds for attracting incels. They both utilize hatred and violence while playing the victim. I mean, look, I would say Antifa and radical or extremist factions of Islam somewhat similar, but I find the radical Islamic extremists more dedicated to their cause, or like it's totally different to what Antifa is.
Yes.
I think Antifa as a organization and the people that are a part of Antifa, more in the line of being losers. I'm not saying the extremists aren't losers, but there is a difference between them. I don't think.
I think the tactics used by those terrorist groups are very similar. They're learning off each other. They're copying each other. And probably Antifa more so now, like they're inspired by jihadis, and I think that's what Cruel Intention is getting at. They're learning from them and they're inspired, and in fact the crossover is so deep that it's about the same issue, and I would say they're learning. So Antifa's learning from the jihadis how to present.
Are they learning or being?
I think they're inspired by the look of it and how to intimidate. Because listen, jihadis are much more intimidating than these Antifa, especially when they're not wearing all their masks, like they're cosplaying, whatever. So like a lot of these Antifa guys, when they're not dressed up like that, they look funny. They got like purple hair and weird earrings and no jobs and barely a shower. Whereas even your jihadi, when he's not masked up, a lot of them look pretty scary. They got like this hectic face and a big beard, and they're quite intimidating without all that cosplaying. But there is, and so I do think that the jihadis have picked up a lot of the language about colonization and imperialism and all this. They don't believe any of that stuff. They just use it because it's a way to sell it to the West.
The whole history of that region is pretty much a hyper version of colonialism. It is literally
the Arab colonization.
It's not just the whites that colonize the world. It's the Arabs and of course other races as well. But that whole Middle East is all about colonization mostly. So their understanding of colonialism is not the same as the white activist understanding. They understand that to use these white activists, these radicals, like you said, you can co-opt their language, make them feel like it's a part of the same thing, and then use it for your advantage. And we see that happening a lot when in these campuses when they're talking about these two issues, which are so far apart. Even the issue in Australia, when it comes to the history of Australia and the history of, like you said, Israel and Palestine, miles apart, but for some reason they've tried to connect the two as being exactly identical.
Insane. It's insane how they try and draw. Ephraim, I'll read that name for you. He's given us almost 3 shekels for Dizzy Face. How does that feel, Rukshan? How do you feel about copping shekels?
Well, I mean, people keep telling me that I'm getting must be receiving a lot of shekels, so it's good to get 2.90 shekels at least.
I just tell them you would not accept shekels. You want American dollars only.
American dollars or rupees? That's all I take.
Thank you, Ephraim. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. And I love getting it in shekels. And then you've got here, Catherine's got another one before we move on.
Yeah, Catherine, thanks again. Even better, Wasim Haddad can't hide his anti-Semitism. So I think is that the guy that was charged in the courts?
Yes.
Or is that a different person?
I think that was the one.
I think they told him, if it's the same person that Catherine's talking about, they told him that he's got to pin the message where he's apologized on his social media because he's trying to hide it or something. The court said, there was some ruling where he has to pin the message of where he's saying sorry. If it's the same person,
it's that guy, that preacher. Yeah,
he must publicly admit, breaking the hate laws. Look, and the funny thing is, it's been interesting to watch the reaction to that federal court case by the anti-Israel mob, because they're like, they basically take it as a win because part of the ruling was you can essentially criticize Zionism and not they're different, Zionism and Judaism, but he was found guilty of, because he's like straight up Jews are dogs, Jews are this, Jews, and he's trying, and that's the argument that they always make, that we're just talking about the state of Israel, and no, this jihadi preacher and is who's celebrated in the Islamic community here he's just saying what a lot of them preach. He's just got a platform to do it, and he's not saying, when they say Zionist, they actually mean Jew, but he straight up says Jew. So, but on the ruling, when he was using the word Zion, but it's so funny how they twist that into like some win for themselves. Like, and I think it's okay. Like you can criticize any, or you can question any ideology or whatever if that is the real reason, like what you're really doing. But what you're seeing people do now is just say Zionism when they mean, because it's just so interchangeable, because it just is now. So most people that are saying it, so while you can genuinely question an idea and talk about an issue, I think a lot of people that are doing it now are just using it to say what they want to say without getting in trouble for saying it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious for anyone paying attention that that's what's going on.
We're getting, yep, so that was that case. Christopher says...
Christopher, thanks for the super chat. Who's tearing down Australia's statues at night? It's the same groups.
Same group. It's them.
It's his same group.
That's a point. It is them. That's what I've been saying to you. Is that it's the exact same group that's been responsible for that. Another video that I found interesting that I just want to quickly watch with you. I got it right before I went away, so I just chucked it on Twitter. Somebody sent it to me, and I got a pretty big reaction online. I just haven't had really a chance to talk about it at all. I don't know if you saw this. What have I done? My Stream Deck's bugging out on me. Oh, hold on. There we go. So essentially, you got two women, brave women, that went last Sunday to Melbourne CBD to fly an Australian flag, 2 Australian flags. And this again goes to the core of the issue that I've been trying to warn people. So they're just flying Australian flags, and what you see there, police were forced to create a line to protect them, because think about it, that. To them, to the anti-Israel mob, the Australian flag is that offensive and considered an opposition to them that police are forced to kind of protect them. And if you're listening to what the lady's screaming at him, is basically calling the women racists. In what world do we live that in Australia, to fly your flag, it is suddenly deemed racist by a group that has held our city hostage because what they claim of a war on the other side of the world that we can do nothing about?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, they're getting away with it. It also goes top down, right? We have people like Albanese and other leaders who refuse sometimes to stand in front of the Australian flag on certain occasions, and they make a big deal about it. So some of these things are systemic, to use a term of the left. If you talk about how it kind of permeates all types of institutions, and then kind of comes down to these activist groups that also push this same mantra and these same lines. And it is sad to see in a country like Australia that the police have to protect people who are holding the Australian flag. How do we solve that? I think, is it just these groups? Is it just this kind of Palestinian movement that hates the Australian flag? No, like we said, there's these other Aboriginal activists and far left activists who have this kind of same hatred towards Australia. I don't think this. I just don't think there's a solution for this hatred of the Australian flag. I think it's just become so normal in Australia that it's accepted now, and most people just casually accept it, and I think that's wrong. I
We
think
shouldn't.
it's sad that we've come to that place. Yeah, it's just sad that it's like that.
And again, it goes back, and I'm going to keep doing it until people wake up and realize it goes back to what I'm saying. These people, they don't just hate Israel, they hate Australia too. They hate everything we stand for in the West. And, if you're...
Well, they do those protests, Harvey, week in, week out, saying that they want the Australian people to listen and they want the support of the Australian population for their cause to help them, get justice or whatever they're asking for. And at the same time, they disrespect the Australian identity and who Australians are, and especially they disrespect the Australian flag. I mean, if an Australian went up there and burnt the Palestinian flag or disrespected the Palestinian flag, they would be held to pay. But for some reason, treating Australia in that manner by these type of activist groups who also want the support of the Australian public, none of it makes sense logically. Like, for me, it doesn't make any logical sense that people are blind to this, especially, again, I would say a lot of, white Australians maybe, or people who have grown up in Australia, shielded from what this really is, who are just kind of like, oh, whatever. Honestly, this is a sickness in our society. And if you're seeing this today, 10 years from now, it's going to be much worse. Everything that you know about this country is going to be radically changed. And the Australian flag, is going to be burned. It's going to be all sorts of things that are going to happen to it. It's just going to be the normal part of, living in Australia.
Part and parcel, you say.
Parcel.
Couple...
SBS on YouTube.
SBS on YouTube.
I don't know. Maybe he's called. I don't know. Maybe it's an insult. Maybe he's calling us SBS.
Thank you for the super chat. Either way,
thank you for the super chat. We are diverse presenters. I guess we could get a job at SBS. Alan, thanks for the super chat. The stabbing of Mari went away fast. Disgrace. So that's the stabbing of the priest in Sydney. That the Safety Commissioner and a lot of our leaders try to shield Australians from, which is again goes to that same issue I'm talking about, Avi. Top down, the leaders in our country know that this is a problem. Like they're not stupid to know that we're having these issues with social cohesion, especially with people who are radicalized. And the moment a Christian priest is stabbed, because of what that might mean for the wider society, what that might it might awaken people to some of the issues that we're facing. Well, no, we got to hide that. You can't see that video. And at the same time, there are so many other violent videos that are available through our news stories and news services of people stabbing people, whatever. Okay, but for whatever reason, the stabbing of a priest, is he Orthodox or something, or he's a Maronite, Assyrian, something like that. Assyrian, right? Assyrian priest. The stabbing of that has to be wiped from the memory of Australians, and we can't see it because it's just so graphic. It wasn't as graphic as some other things. It was really around the fact that Australians might, finally awaken to some of the issues that we're facing. Same thing. It's top down. It comes from the leadership, and it just kind of goes everywhere else into, all aspects of Australian society. And we do have this disintegration based on that.
Christopher says, please check the video. This is the SBS comment. I don't know what video you're
Maybe he's sending a link. Maybe he's sending a link.
I've just looked on the phone. That's why I looked on my phone. Okay. I'm not sure what video you're referring to, Christopher, on SBS YouTube. I didn't even look at SBS YouTube to see if something pop up to me. No idea. Sorry, just maybe give us a bit more details. Appreciate the super chat. So, all right, let's pivot to the next story today. Victoria Police statement, man charged in connection to the theft of a vehicle used in Melbourne Synagogue arson attack. So this was published this morning by Victoria Police. A statement reads as follows. This is a joint release between the Australian...
Can you zoom into it a little bit more? Press Command plus maybe. It's a little bit more. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. This is a joint release between the Australian Federal Police, Victoria Police, and the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation. So that's ASIO. Please note, vision and stills of the arrest, whatever, available hightail.
The Victorian Joint Counter-Terrorism Team has charged a man over his alleged role in the theft of a blue VW Golf, which was later used by those individuals those involved in the Adass Israel Synagogue arson attack and other serious crimes in Victoria. Because if you remember that, what we already know is the synagogue that was burnt to the ground, that car was used for multiple serious, I think, arsons, other arsons, like a tobacco war arson.
A shooting, I believe.
A shooting,
in
that's
Bandura.
right. But that's right.
Yeah,
so there was a few crimes on that same night as the burning down of the synagogue, which has already been, was it 6 months ago?
About, yeah. About
almost.
that much.
The JCTT, which includes Victoria Police, AFP and ASIO, previously stated last year's arson was likely a politically motivated attack. No shit. This remains the position of the JCTT, and the investigation remains a terrorism investigation. As part of ongoing inquiries, investigators arrested a 20-year-old man at Williamstown yesterday, so on Wednesday, before executing a search warrant at a home at Melton South, where they seized items subject to further investigation. The man has been charged with theft of a motor vehicle and failing to comply with an order under Section 3LA of the Crimes Act 1914 to provide access to applications on his mobile telephone. That's so weird. Like, the idea that under Section 3LA of the Crimes Act 1914, he has to provide access to applications on his mobile phone. 1914, what applications were there on mobile phones? Anyways,
Must have been amended.
I'm getting a little sidetracked there. The man was granted strict conditional bail to appear at Melbourne Magistrates Court on Friday the 3rd of October 2025. And that's rubbing people up the wrong way, and I don't blame him, because this is a guy that's that clearly has information regarding some serious crimes, including several firebombings related also, so one's to terrorism, the other is organised crime, including a shooting, and they've still given him, I don't care about strict conditional bail. Criminals are not known for keeping their rules. It's just, to me, it's crazy in Victoria. It's just so easy to get bail, even in these, such high profile cases. Police will allege in court that the blue 2020 model VW Golf sedan was stolen between 12th and 13th November of 2024 at Croydon, and the man was observed driving the stolen vehicle on 29 November 2024 at Melton. The stolen Golf was also used in other offences, including the Lux nightclub arson at South Yarra in November 2024. So this was all November. So how long ago? That's 6 months, no? Am I?
Yeah, I think the arson was in December.
As well as the arsonist shooting that occurred in Bandura. No, same night. Oh, no, sorry, 6th of December. Yeah, it's literally there. At the synagogue arson attack on the 6th of December 2024. The nightclub fire and shooting are being investigated by Victoria Police and are not considered politically motivated attacks. The investigation into the Ripley Synagogue fire continues to be treated as a priority by police. Jeez, I would hate to know what is not a priority if this is like how long investigation of a priority, including the involvement of significant resources across all agencies. This is just the slowest investigation I've ever heard of. The JCTT.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say it's a development at least.
Yeah, so and we don't know what's really happening. We always say that. Like, we don't know what's happening in the back end, so I don't know. But unless they got some major, awesome beeper operation happening, it shouldn't take it this long.
Yeah, and it is concerning as well. So this is a major incident that's happened. This what's being labeled domestic terrorism, and this is the main link as far as the investigation goes that the public knows about now. This is the guy that's the main link to an act of terrorism potentially.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's strict bail conditions. I'm sure that makes people feel confident in the justice system all round. I think there's so many issues now that we're seeing with the legal system in Australia, the justice system, when it comes to dealing with these type of offences. I don't know if it's the law that, I know people are against changing the law, if the law needs to be changed, or if they're just not applying the right type of pressure, or if it's the Melbourne courts and the Melbourne judges who are notoriously very lenient and, even giving people who are linked to terrorist acts.
Yeah, look, I think this is probably a law thing. It was because essentially there was, the government's gone back and forth on it. So when the community gets outraged about the easy bail that people are accessing, then they make it mandatory and they make it hard for judges. So it absolutely is a law thing. Like if you make it hard for judges to give bail, especially when it is alleged, specific crimes and for reoffending, especially like reoffenders, you're hearing some of these stories where kids are getting out 65 times. They're up for 65 offences and they still get bail. How is that even possible? The JCT also regularly engages with relevant communities in relation to status of the investigation. Okay, cool. Come on. Investigators continue to appeal to the community to contact police if they have any information about those involved. Really? Or know anyone who had access to that golf at the time of these offences. Information could be provided by contacting Crime Stoppers or online. A confidential report can also be made to the National Security Hotline. But yeah, that's pretty much everything we said about that.
Yeah, and it is interesting about the access to the apps. Like, obviously, he's not given them access, and how good our intelligence is, our agencies are in terms of cracking these things as well. I'd be interested to know how they, go about getting this information if they had to do that. I know people have, again, mixed views about this, but in cases of terrorism, you'd hope that the people that we have working on the cases have the facilities and the tools available to even get into these devices. It's a tough one because I understand it kind of crosses certain boundaries, but I do feel like we need to get to the bottom of this because it has been a major issue in our state and it's caused all types of upheaval and social cohesion issues. And I think so many people, with whatever side of the fence you are on in terms of the issue or the topic, Avi, so many people actually want direct, clear answers on what transpired that night and who's responsible for that fire at the synagogue.
All right, I finally got Christopher's. So let me just.
It's an SBS video.
So I've got it. I actually think we should bring it up.
Let's bring it up.
Let's quickly watch it. Thank you, Christopher. Good comment. Maybe. Look, I appreciate you've had to super chat over and over and over because that only helps our bottom line. Thank you for the support. Because you've done it a few times and you've let us know. So we're going to actually watch it. So I really do appreciate that. And thank you for all the super chats letting us know to do so. It's who's tearing down the Australian statues on SBS. Let's watch it. Maybe I'll make it a bit faster so we don't have to, because it's like a 15-minute video. Let me just pull it up. I have found it. Boom, boom, boom. Let's put it at, what do we watch at 1.25? It's usually how I watch stuff minimum anyways, eh? Do you do that too?
Mm-hmm. No, I tend to just watch it normal speed in the background.
Oh, well, some of us don't have time. Wait, what's going on here? What have I got? Oh, I've got the volume down there. Hold on, let's get that at 100. All right, this is the video. I might have to turn on that output. There might be some...
Cut the music.
Yeah.
We had people watching for cops on at least 5 corners. We had stuck 2 ladders to the fence so people could climb on either side.
I've seen this.
They've been called extremists, accused by some of erasing Australia's history. Police are trying to find out who they are, because over the last year and a half, they've been targeting tearing down Australia's colonial statues.
They tell one history. They tell the history of white supremacy.
Now, for years, there has been this intense debate about what Australia does with its colonial statues, and whether they should even be on display.
Do we want to move somewhere?
And this group thinks there is only one way to get change.
There's a list of priorities.
Oh, you can see they're wearing the keffiyehs.
I don't see them as protesters, I see them as criminals.
The decision to remove the statue is disgusting. I think it's the ultimate virtue signalling act.
Justified. At the end of the day, we're not harming anyone.
They come down there with a little bit of relief, but they don't understand the consequences on Indigenous and First Nations people.
Sorry, the music.
For a while now, we've been talking to this secretive group in Melbourne through encrypted texts. Now, there's more than one group in Australia going after these statues, but this group is by far the most active and most coordinated. And they've agreed to talk on the condition that they can wear masks, choose a meeting place, and if we distort their voices.
So to go right at the roundabout and find a gate.
I think what's interesting here, so it is 100% that group. And SBS has contact with them. SBS was able to communicate with them. And the reason why, obviously, that I remember I've watched this, and I remember at the time, two things actually pop out to me here now, watching it again, is you can see they're wearing the keffiyehs, even when was this published? It was, I'll look in a minute. It was a while ago. But it was probably it would have been since October 7. So it is the same group, and they're dressing the same, and it's all about the same thing. And they're a domestic terrorist group, and, the police need to stamp down on it. But it's funny how they reached out to SBS to do this, because they knew they were going to get... This is a very sympathetic puff piece about a domestic terrorist group. That's the thing. And at this point, it was just statues. It was just trying to erase our Australian history by ripping down statues. Now they've escalated to burning cars, targeting businesses, and threatening Australian workers with actual violence. Like, it's insane. And SBS did this puff piece.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've been waiting here for almost 2 hours. We were told by people in the group that they'd pick us up and take us. They keep getting spooked by people walking past. So we're just kind of waiting for their lead. Finally, they say they're ready for the interview, and they escort us to the spot. When they topple or vandalize a statue, they usually leave a message to the public. The most common one reads, "The colony will fall." They've done the same to this abandoned building where they wanted us to do the interview. When other members are about to follow us in, they see someone near the building and they hide. Okay, so should I hide?
I'm sorry.
While we're hiding, I start to think we might not ever make it to this interview.
They're such cowards.
It's the guy cutting the lawn.
They're scared of a guy in a lawnmower. But again, you see the keffiyeh in his hand. It's all props, and it is these guys will escalate, and they will attract kids who just want to turn violent. Yeah, just like ISIS, just like the jihadi groups.
Shall we go?
So we've turned off the music. So
they're concerned about being seen by the public, so they have some members keep watch while we talk. Why did you want to do this interview today?
Although it's hard for us to be in these places and in front of the cameras, it feels like an important way to maybe reach people. At the end of the day, we are just normal people who care about, the issues at hand.
The aim of the group is to get rid of all colonial statues, which they say are reminders of a violent time that should not be celebrated. They've cut down monuments dedicated to the most well-known statues in Melbourne, including John Batman and Captain Cook.
Toppling the statue is an act of resistance, so a response to the violence that they embody. We're emphasising the culture of resistance. It can be good to bring it back to Australia's history of not telling the truth about what happened when people came here.
They won't tell me exactly how they know each other.
It is a bit tricky on the feet. We've got a spot in the corner.
What they do tell me is that since last year, they've been ramping up their actions when it comes to colonial statues. We moved to a quieter place, and they show me a video of when they recently tried to cut down the Queen Victoria statue in Melbourne.
Some people climbed up, but they failed to get it down and ended up just smashing the base of the marble.
They know their actions are illegal, but they don't care. They say this is a failed attempt because they couldn't completely topple it.
There's a list of priorities. Topple is policy number 1, and then the cap number 2, and graffiti number 2.
Once they've cut down or vandalised a monument, videos usually pop up online. The most viral video was when they targeted Captain Cook.
We had a few people begin. As the statue started to fall, it would fall in a very specific way.
The Captain Cook statue has been repaired, but another statue of King George V is still without its head 9 months later. Victoria Police have condemned this group and are still trying to find them, but this has done little to stop them, and they've posted videos of them carrying their head online.
And it's just so telling to me. Victoria Police can't find them, but SBS can go to this abandoned warehouse, which is... I hope that guy that was cutting the lawn helps police catch this group of escalating anarchists and clowns. Like, you can see these are the biggest losers, gutless losers that just, like, they're such cowards on every level. And but you know, and this whole thing is just the way it's framed by SBS is sickening to me.
Yeah, it's a puff piece
on criminals, on anarchists, and a group that has since then escalated.
I mean, she might as well just put on a mask and a keffiyeh herself and join in at this point.
Who knows? Maybe that's how she knows him.
Where do you keep the king's head?
In a bin, sometimes. Today was in the riverbed. Pretty ugly king. Still shouldn't have a head. It was taken off. What day was it? On the king's birthday, yeah.
And how long does it usually take?
Depends on the statute. Sometimes a few days of planning. We want to try and be as quick as possible, obviously. We feel that it's important that this king wears a head, but we by no means take it lightly, and there is serious disobedience.
2 weeks after this interview, the bronze head was on stage in Melbourne with the Irish group Kneecap. The move was on brand for Kneecap, who have long been vocal about resisting colonial powers and recently had their US visa revoked for their statements. On their Instagram after the show, they said, "Remember, every colony can fall."
And I back when this came out, it wasn't when, because obviously Kneecap.
That story with Kneecap, yeah.
Yeah, that's where Kneecap. What was it? Kneecap. What did they say at the show that made him so famous? Oh, they did something. I can't remember exactly what.
Yeah.
But it's all clout chasing. Like, this is all for all of them. It's just about getting them notoriety.
And look, this is how ridiculous this whole thing is. You know, destroy the colony will fall. Here they are participating in a form of capitalism, of course, holding a concert, holding a show, having people come and enjoy the benefits of living in the colony as well. So,
but why do we let people into Australia that hate Australia? I don't know. Like people that.
Well, yeah.
People that
I think these guys they were flying under the radar before. Now people are onto these guys.
They should not. I'm all for free speech, but I don't think that have your free speech back where you are. If you hate this country, why should we let you? And you don't even think we're a legitimate. That's essentially their argument. Australia is not a legitimate entity. Then. Why should we let you in here to make money off us?
Yeah, I mean, it's all ridiculous. We have Lydia Thorpe in the Parliament House who says the Queen is illegitimate or whatever, the Crown, the royals are illegitimate, but she swears allegiance to them to keep her position, even though she pretends to protest. I mean, that's how ridiculous this movement is.
But even the framing of SPS here about Kneecap is just so off to me.
Yeah.
Why are you like she's almost framing it like they're so they're notorious, they're so naughty, bad boys. Dude, they're banned from America. Why are you not questioning why they're allowed?
I don't know if SBS has done any stories on the right, but if you kind of compare a story that they do on the right of Australia, it would be very different tone and very different language, and they would be talking about the dangers to society. They'd be relating back to like Nazism, all this kind of stuff. So. It is very on brand for SBS. This is something I would typically, expect to see on SBS or ABC. Yeah, they just don't have that. And that palette where they can criticize.
Taxpayer funded.
Yeah, they don't have the palette where they can criticize things that they agree with.
Let's keep watching.
The actions of this group and others like them have been strongly condemned over the years.
This sort of senseless vandalism advances no cause.
My aim is not polarization. My aim is not hate. I want us to be having these conversations.
Have you tried other ways?
We have seen so much struggle. People making appeals, petitions, submissions to the government to effect. We're not harming anyone. It's the government, the police who are causing the most harm to people. And at the end of the day, if you're Australia, you're angered by a statue coming down, take a good hard look at the fact that Aboriginal people have seen genocide, dispossession, endless violence against them.
Many of the statues they target.
So you hear that? That's the justification for this, and it's always the justification. I don't know. It might be a bit hard for people that don't understand. Like we have a filter that pulls out the music just in case, because YouTube and these other platforms end up giving you a copyright strike if the music. I don't know what music SBS is using. It might be their very own. It probably is their own music, so it's probably not a problem. But we just, to be careful, we use some software that kind of cuts out the music. So it makes it even harder to hear what they're saying. But their justification there is that when people criticize you for it, what do you say? Well, it would be much harder to live under a genocide. And it's like, so you've basically got a license to do whatever you want, whenever you want it, because there are people around the world, rightly or wrongly, you say, are suffering an injustice. So somehow that gives you a license to do whatever you want in Australia.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the statues are the least. If that's their real concern, the statues is the least of their worries. But I think this is just soft targets for their fake activism.
Because they're
and
cowards.
It's all performative. It's all performative. If they really believed in all of these things and they thought they had the popular support of the Australian public, they would not be wearing masks.
Yep.
They'd be doing it out on show and being, applauded by the people in Australia.
Yep.
But they're not. They're afraid. They're cowards. And, they're the lowest form of cowards as well.
And they're just like the horseshoe theory, and that's what I was mentioning before when you went to the protest, where it was these guys versus the Nazis, and they were actually dressed the same. They all wear black, all wear the masks, because they're all cowards. Like, okay, even at least the Nazis, there's a few of them that put their face to it. These guys, biggest cowards.
I mean, those guys have already had their names tarnished and been put through the court system for their ridiculous acts. So, it's the same.
Are of colonial figures accused of oppressing Indigenous people.
Are any of you Indigenous?
No, I'm not either. I'm sure there's First Nations people who have taken similar actions, of course. We've had endorsement from such a wide range of groups and individuals. So
white saviors. There you go.
She should have naturally gone, hey, are you Palestinian? Because you're wearing the keffiyeh. I thought that was like frowned upon to appropriate somebody else's. Like, it's fine, they're not wearing anything Indigenous, they're just fighting for the Indigenous people. But here you're appropriating the keffiyeh.
Yeah, but isn't the keffiyeh itself appropriated from somewhere else?
Oh, 100%. Yes, I think it is. But whatever. Let's accept that it's Palestinian. Like everything else, it's Indigenous.
Scholars,
We've spoken to a few Indigenous people who do support their actions.
I think it's acknowledging as well the level of.
Notice that. Did you see that? Did you see what she did there? Like, are you Indigenous? Because you have to ask the question because it's obvious. And then they're like, nah, none of us are Indigenous. She goes, but we spoke to Indigenous people that support him. That is insane. That's like the most insane tactic to legitimize him.
Yeah.
Privilege that I come to it with, like as a highly educated white Australian. That privilege is what enables me to be able to do this way.
It's pretty hard to know how many colonial monuments and statues are in Australia when there is no central register. But this site has found at least hundreds. The City of Sydney Council actually agreed to take another look at 25 plaques on colonial statues. It was after its first Aboriginal councillor said it was time to check in on how we told our history. For example, on one of those plaques, Governor Lachlan Macquarie is described as the perfect gentleman. What it fails to mention is that he authorised for Aboriginal bodies to be hung from the trees to cause terror to those who didn't submit to colonial rule. When I reached out to the councillor, she said she was disappointed that little progress had actually been made. There's only a few places in Australia that repairs colonial statues, and this...
So instead of the story being about these, escalating domestic terrorists, which now we know they've escalated to the point that they've escalated, the story is about how what they're actually doing is right. That's essentially the undertone of this entire story.
Yeah.
And we're paying for this as taxpayers. Like, if you're wondering how we got there, and I think you make a really decent point in saying, what about when it's the right? Would they ever do a puff piece like this about that Nazi group? Because that's exactly what they are. They're the other side of the Nazi group who nowadays advocate for the same things almost, like when it comes to Israel. But obviously they're on opposing ends of the Australia thing, but they're doing the same actions. They do the same behaviours. They're into the same kind of...
And I do think I just want to point out I do think a lot of this has to do with, like that guy said, I'm a highly educated white Australian or something, right? He had to mention that. So this is a part of that radicalization from the university system for a lot of these people. Because Avi, when I was traveling around, for instance, Sri Lanka, and you can also see in parts of India, countries that were colonized, and lots more deaths occurred in those countries due to colonization than anything remotely close to what happened in Australia. They have their British statues and their British history. They're all there. There's no Indians, be radicalized at their schooling system, trying to tear down statues of the British past. There might be one or two, but not in this same fashion. It's not an issue. So a lot of this kind of academia in the West where this individual, proudly says, "I'm an educated white Australian, and this is kind of what we're doing because we are highly educated." Does speak of that white savior complex that a lot of these individuals have, where they think they can rewrite the history of the past by tearing down statues today. When we've seen ourselves when we've been to Alice Springs, this is the last thing on the minds of people who are indigenous and suffering certain impacts within our societies. Like taking down statues will not do anything to better their lives. Nothing whatsoever. Just a virtue signal. And I think the fact that SBS is giving credit to these individuals by trying to find justifications for it shows you how deep this rot is within mainstream Australia. Where
so you can go.
Celebrated.
You guys can go and watch the rest of it. So that's about halfway through. It's called "Who's Tearing Down Australia Statues at Night?" But I think we've got the gist of it is the same group that made the threat, and it was actually published 2 months ago by SBS, and they should be held accountable. And I hope the police are talking to that journalist that propped this group up and to SBS for the puff piece that they made about these people that have escalated to a point where they're inciting terrorism on our streets here in Australia. And guys, remember, if you're siding with these people, these are the clowns you're siding with. But I really thank you, Christopher.
Thanks for sharing that video. That was actually good.
Really good. So that's guys. It's Who's Tearing Down Australia's Statues at Night. You can check it out on SBS. And maybe let them know. Christopher, thank you, and thank you for look at that. We got a.
Thanks,
That's
mate.
the kind of super chats we like to see, ladies and gentlemen.
He gave us a super chat for doing our job for us.
I know.
This is kind of the viewers that we want.
But no, on a serious note, this is kind of the community. That's what I've been enjoying about this show, is we've created this community and it's growing, and it's up to you guys. So if you're watching this, whatever platform you're watching on, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, share this live stream, because we are getting a community of people like Christopher and some of the other regulars who get involved in the conversation, who actually, and then we end up going off on tangents because of the interesting points that they make. And I like that. To me, it actually makes me realize things, like in this case, that 2 months ago, SBS was promoting the group that went on to acts of terror and then also inciting terrorism. Thank you, Christopher. Let's read a couple of these super chats and then we'll move on to the next story before we run.
From Jarrell. Jarrell, thanks for the super chat. Just a super chat. Thanks, mate.
Appreciate it. Boom. What do we got here? Ted, people who drive. Read that one. I think it's all right.
Ted, thanks for the super chat. People who drive for an Islamic State tear down our statues at night. Stop Islamic immigration.
I don't know what you're saying there, Ted. About I'm assuming you're saying that the people that kind of would do the dirty work. Is that what you're saying? Like for Islamic State, like those kinds of people, because those lefties, even the whole fact that they're wearing the keffiyeh, that's kind of like they'll do the dirty work for Islamists like Hamas, and then the stopping of Islamic migration. Well, there was like the ban that, Trump's ban that they called the Muslim ban, but it was just like from terrorist hotbeds, and I think that is what needs to happen. Like, you need to have a ban from places that we know that there is a high level of terrorism, and the perfect example in the last couple of weeks is the two. We had that lady from Gaza who, after a year and a half of being here, ASIO finally swooped and took her to detention, and then it was revealed that she was the second person in the family. Like, we need to stop migration from terrorist hotbeds. Like, Islamic immigration completely, I don't know, like, you look at people from the UAE, they're never going to pose a threat here, but I think that we should be targeting places that that there is, a high threat level of people using our migration weaknesses against us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, nations which are hostile to the West or involved in an active conflict with the West, they should be the lowest on that list at that time, because it's the hardest place to vet at that particular moment. You don't know what you're bringing into the country.
It is
Makes
literally
perfect
impossible.
sense.
It's
Yeah.
impossible. Jimmel, thank you for the super chat. Always good to have you supporting us. Sometimes with a comment, most often without, I think. If only Rukshan spoke as often as you do. What it says.
Ted says, so it's radical half-caste blackfellas who converted to Islam whilst in prison.
I think there is a thing of, and I've seen like reports on that, but especially when I was really into it, the radicalization and the conversions that happen within inside prisons, not just in Australia, in the UK, in America, but especially the UK, and it's like the way that they kind of do it is. I think there is a lot of Aboriginal conversion here, but even in the UK, it's kind of taking it's kind of way of getting your protection in jail. Like it's join us and you're part of the family. And they were also creating terrorists in. I remember watching a whole documentary on how the jails it works in the UK, in which they had like the extremists that were done for terrorism crimes, and then they created kind of like this thing to convert people within the jails and breed extremists from within the prisons, which is like a crazy thought. You know, this is the place where we're taking these people off the street for very serious offences, and in those cases terror offences, and then you're giving them a platform in which they can recruit. Insane.
Yeah. Insane. The police needs to raid SBS for information. Look, I actually don't mind the journalists like doing these kind of undercover stories, or people reaching out to journalists.
And the problem is not doing it. The problem is not.
The problem is the approach to it. Of course, this was a promotional propaganda style video. This is kind of what the BBC does for Hamas these days. So it's that kind of thing that's happening, which we shouldn't be happening in.
And this is what people mistake. Like when I see Tucker Carlson or Piers Morgan or all these, and I say, I get angry about who they have on their show. It's not for the fact that they're platforming somebody. It's for platforming without challenging. So same as in this case, it's fine to run a story on them, but pretend that they were on the other spectrum, the other end of the spectrum, political spectrum. You would not treat them with the baby gloves on. Yeah. You would absolutely demolish them. You wouldn't you wouldn't do a background to what they're doing and explain why what they're actually doing is not that bad, or at least the motive's not that bad, because they kind of have a point. That was that whole story. It's like they're breaking the law, they don't care, but they kind of have a point. That's insane. That's the problem with it. And I don't think police should ever have the right to. I'm just going to say that. Like I know we're joking, and I know you're probably joking in the comment, but I don't think the police should have the right to raid anyone. I think it's just telling. I think we should defund them. I don't think as a taxpayer I shouldn't have to fund any commercial enterprise as a taxpayer, but as a taxpayer, I shouldn't have to fund a propaganda platform which is being used by extremists to promote terrorism in Australia because they share a political ideology with the network and with that reporter or whatever.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Boom. There you go.
This is from Ghost Walker. Thanks for the super chat. Evening, Rukshan and Avi. Antifa are nothing but cowards and clowns. It's bloody pathetic, to be honest. Keep up the brilliant work, lads. I'll take that as a statement, Ghost Walker. I cannot disagree with you regarding Antifa. Complete clowns. And sadly, at least in the state of Victoria, very well supported in terms of the state government and the police letting their antics carry on for a long time now.
Yep. Appreciate the super chat. What have we got next? Just a couple more to go.
Cruel Intentions, only 53 likes, 328 viewers though. Press like button, you Baz haters. Well, Cruel, we're actually simulcast multiple places. So if you're watching on certain platforms, it might only show 100 viewers, 200 viewers. So it goes through I
Right
think
now, just to give you...
six or seven platforms. So it's
So we can see the viewers here. And right now we've got 7,896, and that's not including Rumble. So, but you're right. Make sure whatever platform you're on, hit like to the actual stream. It helps the algorithm. Share it to give it a push. Get your friends, family and friends to join in the conversation, or at least watch and get educated. And whatever platform you're on, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. But yeah, I agree. Cruel Intentions. Make sure to hit the like button. If there's 300 and on whatever platform you're watching, with 328 watching live with you, there should be 328 likes.
That's right.
All right. Appreciate Cruel for the super chat. Baz.
That Baz says the kafaya began in Mesopotamia, now Iraq.
Yeah,
yep.
I couldn't. I thought it was Iraq. Yeah. But it doesn't look. Whatever. It's become a symbol of the Palestinians nowadays. Cool. They appropriate. They stole it from somewhere else. I think there's actually different colors. It's the black and white one that's become the symbol for the Palestinian thing. Cool. But when did appropriating somebody's clothing for culture, when did that suddenly not only become okay, it's become the norm, the celebrated norm?
I see it in shopping centers, just like, a bunch of white kids walking around. We got kafayas on. So for certain activist groups, it has become a fashion status symbol type thing.
But wasn't that the thing the left told us for years we're not allowed to do?
Yeah, we can't do it for anything else except this thing. But apparently they've got permission. So they've got explicit permission to help raise awareness. So that is why.
Who gave him the permission? The Hamas, the Hamas body of appropriation.
Yes,
it's the Ministry of Appropriation. I got it.
It's very different when you get approval from Hamas. It's different.
So if like one black dude gives me a pass to do whatever, or an Chinese gives me, like, does that mean I can? It's such a scam, all of it. But we know that.
Equity in Israel, a reporter and cameraman would pull out guns and arrest them. We learned something from Mossad. Look, I think there has been criticisms of the Israeli, censorship or the media, but I think it's very different in a war zone.
But also, like, I think it's funny. I think that's a funny comment. Like, maybe the Israeli government would have some elaborate scheme to do that and get them. I don't think look, in Israel, the government will find these guys and crack down. Like, if they were inciting terrorism, it wouldn't be like the Synagogue where you have that many months of an investigation for something that they're considering a terrorist act. But in Israel, you also have far left wing reporters and there's one that's always brought up. So whenever you see anyone,
Haaretz.
So Haaretz is the one that, and it's funny because it's like the English Haaretz is the one that's designed for Israel haters, and they are an extreme left wing publication, not made for consumption within Israel or even within the Jewish world. They are made for the people that are actually subscribed to them, who admit to being subscribed to him, is someone like Candace Owens. And the funny thing is, they are extreme leftists. They are worse than SBS. But because Israel has freedom of the press, they have every right to publish their anti-state propaganda. And that's just the way it is. And you know what? Like, part of the problems within democracies is that it's the democracy itself that is used to subvert it. And that happens here in Australia, and it happens in Israel. It's like our best asset is also our biggest weakness.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree.
There you go.
Magnum, thanks for the super chat. Great work, boys. Keep reporting what the mainstream don't. And look, I think mainstream do cover some of these topics, but they just don't go into it in depth.
Well, we just played an SBS.
Well, yeah, you saw how SBS covered the issue.
We're covering the way they cover it, yes.
Like, they're literally, I'm telling you, those guys are terrorists. Like, if in Australia, those guys are domestic, homegrown terrorists. You might not think that what they're doing is harmful or serious, but this is definition of terrorism because they're trying to terrorize the population into supporting their political agenda. And whether that's trying to burn synagogues or going after weapons companies or cutting up statues, it's the same thing. We have to treat it like that because the sickness just grows.
Appreciate the super chat, mate. And one more super chat for now.
From Varun, thanks again. Paying for barter to welcome us all to country. This is sort of another barter. Is that
that must be one of those organisations? I'm assuming.
Okay.
Paying for barter to, or is that something?
Is that like jizya?
Yeah, is that jizya? That's what I want to. Hold on, let's look it up. Is that like? Don't you hate when these jokes go over our head? While we're live?
So many things go over our heads. Where, as you can see, as this podcast progresses, neither Avi or myself is very bright.
That is no. I don't. I'm looking it up and I can't seem to find the reference. You might have to pay another super chat to explain it to us. You know how we like to roll. Appreciate the super chat. One more super chat while we were looking that one up.
Thanks to Mixed Take. Unfortunately, the West is exhibiting suicidal empathy, and whether it's radical Islam or the Trannish Inquisition, it's all by. I had to pause for a second. It's all driven by Marxism. Well, yeah, that's the Western flavor of it. Is all linked to Marxism, and they're all useful idiots at the end of the day. I think everyone's being used by everyone. And most of the population, I still think, 95% of people are still kind of with it. But I think a lot of people are sleepwalking into what's happening as well. And these smaller groups, this 5%, is having massive success with
Bada Aboriginal. Oh, I think they're making fun of. I'm seeing the comments. I think Bada is actually the Aboriginal.
Oh, it's Aboriginal Corporation comments. That's
and
why.
in the comments,
okay.
yeah. Okay, gotcha.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, because I was just seeing it scroll on the thing. Oh, everyone's having to go.
Good. We figured that out.
Yeah. All right. Pivot to next issue. Somebody mentioned it before. We'll just touch on it. I don't think it's kind of just a bit funny what's happened here. Sorry, 1 second. Let's see if I make it bigger. Does it? Oh, it cuts it off a little bit. Or can I go?
This is your mate.
My mate. Burgatory boss Tayeh quits and says the decision hasn't come lightly. Tayeh, the high profile. I read the way that I cannot believe even the Herald Sun, who's the reporter on this, Joseph, watch the way that they frame this. It's just an absolute joke. They're platforming this guy's propaganda, his version. This guy literally, the way he frames everything to be the victim, even when he's clearly the guilty one, in every scenario is mind-boggling. But it's even more crazy how the Herald Sun just goes with it. The so-called conservative news outlet Tayeh, the high-profile head of the Melbourne fast food chain, has resigned as CEO of Burgatory and food and beverage company QSR Collective. Founder and CEO of Melbourne burger restaurant chain Burgatory has quit amid a liquidation probe and mounting tax debt. So, this story has been over the last few months developing, where the ATO says he hasn't been paying some tax, and he owes about $1 million, and the federal court forced at least a number of the locations into liquidation, which, remember, this is the one that had the firebombing, and people were questioning what was it, is it potentially, and there was, a lot of people in the community talking about how it was really struggling in Caulfield, and the Jewish landlord apparently was saying, so there was a lot of speculation about whether it was, at the time, insurance, while he was claiming it was a hate crime, and it looks like his businesses have been struggling. Tayeh took to Instagram on Wednesday night to announce his formal resignation as CEO of Burgatory and food and beverage company QSR Collective. The decision hasn't come lightly, but it comes with complete conviction, he said. It's really funny. I've got a photo. You took it. Oh, did you? I think you did.
I think I did take a photo of you.
Yeah, on my wedding night, because the Burgatory in Caulfield, I'm going to drop this now. because it was like I didn't. No one
I
knew.
didn't know.
No one knew what Burgatory. Like I don't even think I've ever eaten one of their burgers. My brother actually went there the other day. He was forced on a Tinder date. He went to a Burgatory and he goes, "That was the worst burger of my life in Sydney." I go, "Mate, look at you, you're funding the enemy straight away." Anyways, at least he knows his money didn't get wasted on the government tax. But on my wedding night, you took a photo of me and my wife in Caulfield in front of those wings because it was just like you were like, "Oh, that would be good for a photo." And so thank you for starting my marriage on a good foot. When I started Burgatory, it was never about burgers. It was about building something unapologetically bold. Like, the guy is so full of shit, even on the most basic stuff. Anyway, that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. Cool. Mr. Tayeh went on to explain that the business has become the first fast food chain in Australia to introduce a profit-sharing model across all staff, not just the boardroom. I would expect the Herald Sun to delve into that, because that's just like a claim he's made. This is like some great socialist enterprise that went out of their way for the workers. And I would love to know what the truth is, but I can't be bothered actually wasting any time on it. He confirmed the Melbourne-born business still plans to take on the world ahead of the fast food chain's anticipated openings in the Philippines later this year. This isn't me stepping away because we're winding down. This is me stepping aside so Burgatory can soar higher. This is as they're going into liquidation. The 35-year-old Palestinian-Australian businessman and activist is vocal for his supporting Palestine online and in person at rallies. In 2023, the Burgatory branch, the Caulfield Burgatory branch, was burnt down by arsonists, triggering Mr. Tayeh and his family to move into a safe house. So, like, already the framing to me there is like, okay, trigger. Okay, fine, I'll accept. That's what he said at the time. Like, normally when they report this stuff, he says, you know, they'll preface it with like, that's what he claimed. And I think, and many times I find it annoying when they write that, because it's like, it's not something he said. Like, it's pretty obvious it happened. In this case, he makes a lot of claims that are clearly false. So at least if you're going to report it like it's fact, at least add he said.
Yeah, I think false in the sense that there's counter
No.
information.
That I'm not saying is the false one that he's saying. I'm saying there are things that are objectively false, like that it was a hate crime as the reason why his shop was burnt down. And it was immediately known, it was immediately announced by police that it was not a hate crime, and the people that were arrested for it were involved in the tobacco, that they'd been charged with other tobacco war firebombings. So it was more of a criminal thing rather than a politically motivated thing. But he continues to this day to claim it was somehow
targeted attack.
Targeted. In fact, in his statement, he's saying that, and that's what annoys me about this reporting on it. He goes, only a year later, his house was allegedly firebombed while he and his family were asleep. And so then they're quoting his Instagram, like his statements are the funniest. The reality is, I've been subjected to targeted attacks, politically motivated smears, ongoing harassment, not because of any wrongdoing, but because I've dared to speak out against injustice, he said. Remember, this is his statement in reference to stepping down because the ATO's, the federal court has forced a bunch of his Burgatory locations into administration because he owes like $1 million in tax. While I never apologize for my activism or my voice, I cannot allow these attacks to become collateral damage for the people who have helped build this empire. Again, the fact that they're not even like pushing back at this statement, when what does any of that have to do with the fact that you didn't pay tax? Like, do you think that the ATO looks at your political view? Like, the fact they say that you didn't pay $1 million in tax. So do you think that because I'm a Zionist, if I just don't pay the tax, they're just going to give me a free pass? Because
normally for something like this, it would be straight reporting of what's happened. it wouldn't be colored. It wouldn't be colored with the activism side of it because
and like he's like a victim of this thing when it's like, dude, like you publish his statement. I got no problem, but share his statement and also push back at some of the nonsense. Mr. Tayeh says his decision was made to protect others from being caught in the crossfire of his controversies and to protect the livelihoods of every stakeholder who deserves to thrive without being dragged into a fight that isn't theirs. He went on to thank his team of employees for being a part of his business legacy. To every team member, franchise, customer, supporter, and believer, thank you. You helped build this.
I'm surprised he didn't write a poem because that's not.
No, he kind of. It's funny because I actually think.
Poem?
No, but I think this might have been an edited version because I think on the first one they kind of made it look like like the whole weird thing about the fire was, like he was targeted and without giving the context of like, dude, the fire was, they've got the guys, had nothing to do with his political things. He's never, just like in this case, this has nothing to do with his political activism. I'm sure his political activism hurt his businesses. Although, mind you, according to everyone I know that's ever had a burger at Burgatory, it's probably the burgers that killed Burgatory. But it's in this case, it's got nothing to do with his activism and everything to do with a bloody tax bill.
Yeah,
pay your taxes, and then to spin it like, oh, we are the most ethical thing. We share the profits without. Yes, I'm sure he just gives all the money to everyone that works there because he's such a nice guy. All right, let's pivot. Oh,
didn't he want to
box me?
Didn't he box you once? Yeah. Didn't he?
I offered him a debate.
Now might be a good time to raise money to do a
he needs the money. Well, he's removed his. On Instagram, he's removed CEO of Burgatory, obviously, and that was before the statement I noticed. Like, as the news was coming out that they've gone into liquidation, he's removed CEO before he's made his statement, and he just has a crowdfund now. Like, the guy is such a loser. He presents himself as like this mad big businessman, and he's like a failed businessman. And then when I offered him a debate, he to the Herald Sun at the time, he was like, "No, I'll box him." Like, oh, way to prove your peaceful cause. That when
predisposition to violence.
Yeah, when I come to you with an offer of dialogue, your natural response is violence. Okay, mate. Anyways, couple super chats and then we'll move on.
This is from Alan. Thanks for super chat. Is Trump in the Epstein files?
This is a segue. This is a segue.
We're going to get to that. There's going to be so much drama.
It's literally. Now? This is the segue into that. But before we go into that, let's just.
Laura, thanks for the super chat. Can I ask to use the HMS flag?
The Hamas flag. Oh, I'm assuming the Hamas flag. Yeah.
You would be Laura. You could do it, but there will be people after you, definitely. And
no, SBS might give you a.
Can you imagine the outrage from the politicians?
SBS might give you a puff piece. What are you talking about? You might get a nice story on your little Hamas support. Oh, there we go. Chris is back.
Thanks, mate. If they haven't paid taxes, chances are they haven't paid super. I think that was a part of it as well.
Listen. I just love his statement where he paints himself as this generous, big, awesome business guy who actually created this empire to support the staff. And I guarantee you, just because he lies so often about everything, I guarantee you that the workers serving the burgers at Burgatory in whatever outlets are not getting a share of all the profits. Mind you, maybe technically they are because they're running at a loss and he's ripping them off as well.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole story doesn't make sense because if Burgertory is still existing as a brand and opening up stuff overseas in Philippines and stuff, is it unrelated businesses? It's not really clear exactly what's going on.
Because it's all happening. It's been unfolding over a few months, and look, my prediction is it's all crashing. The fact that he's not the kind of guy to quit as CEO. That's the last thing. Like, he's been doing this activism for a couple of years, and. He's been giving it a bad name for a long time now, but
He's only stepping aside because it's a sinking ship. That's what's happening. So all that is, it's all going to crash. That's my prediction. There's no, and especially if they owe that much money already. Like, who's the new CEO? Let's wait and see. All right, let's move on to the Trump thing, which was brought up in the super chat. Let's start here.
No, it's I call it the Epstein hoax.
Donald Trump is turning on a fractured MAGA movement.
It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net.
The president accusing what he's called his past supporters of buying into bull, hook, line and sinker. He also described them as weaklings, arguing he doesn't want their support anymore.
The sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people.
Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein died in a prison cell in 2019 while facing sex trafficking charges. Skepticism and conspiracies about his death and a possible client list were amplified by Donald Trump's allies and appointees.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
But when the Trump administration reaffirmed that Epstein died by suicide and concluded there was no such client list, it angered many of the president's high-profile backers.
That is, I think, what is enraging people right now, is it's insulting our intelligence. Like, obviously, the intelligence community is trying to cover it up.
They've got videotape, and all of a sudden they don't. Kash Patel said there's nothing you're looking for. Oh, okay.
Since Donald Trump retook office, no issue has rocked his MAGA coalition quite like this one. To put it simply, many of his supporters don't believe what the White House is telling them. The president prides himself on his ability to deflect issues he doesn't want to talk about, but it looks like this issue isn't going away. The president is standing by his team for now.
When your Attorney General wasn't here, your FBI leadership, do you still have confidence in that team, sir?
Total.
As a MAGA meltdown unfolds around him. Cayman Gok, ABC News, Washington.
What's your reaction?
Honored to be there. So
I love how the mainstream's are talking about this and reporting it.
Yeah.
You know, ABC would be very hesitant to do stories about this particular issue, but now all of a sudden,
yeah, it's a good point.
They're running with it. That's one thing. But look, I mean, obviously, online, where a lot of this, you know, when you're talking about his big supporters, a lot of them have been the podcasters and a lot of the kind of MAGA bros that have supported him very vocally, who are kind of upset about the files not being released and a lot of the things that transpired. And there is a bit of a fight going on there between the base as well. There's lots of people that vehemently support Donald Trump no matter what. And there's other people that are questioning his actions. And I think it's fair enough in a political sense.
And there's a third group, which I actually think is probably the loudest right now in this conversation.
Yep.
Are the ones that have been looking for something to use because they even towards the end of or in the campaign were kind of rallying against him in a much more careful way, like the Nick Fuentes types. And even to a degree, Candace Owens and that. But
they've latched onto it.
There's kind of three groups. There's the ones that actually feel betrayed. There's the ones that diehard Trump, trust him 100%, trust the administration, will not care. And then there's the ones that are using it. And a bit like the ABC in their way, like suddenly this is the story.
Well, I mean, this all kind of, like what Trump, I think it's been misreported as well. Like they're taking Trump's words about this being a hoax and they're applying it to the entirety of, what happened, what's alleged to have happened. Whereas Trump is more pushing that towards the investigation and how that unfolded and how these files, he reckons that parts of these files are a hoax. So people are saying that he's saying the whole thing is a hoax, and it's not necessarily that. I think he's saying the way that it's been handled is, being weaponized and used potentially as a hoax to get him or to get people, against the Trump administration. I think, I honestly believe that, these files, it's, it blows my mind that people can't put together the fact that having these files in the hands of the Biden administration for 4 years, knowing that the Trump administration was, you saw Kash Patel, you saw Trump, you saw Vance prior to the election, talking about wanting to look at these files and release to the public. It blows my mind that people can't, put that together, what Trump is saying, that in that time, potentially, these files have been tainted to such an extent that, they're being weaponized against the administration to create some type of scandal or a hoax where it ties up the administration upon, just releasing it as is would tie up the administration for years. And Trump can't achieve his agenda. I think he's more focused on his agenda. Now, I understand that people say that this is the BN and end all of everything. This is the most important thing. We're fighting pedophiles, or we're fighting this elite. This has to be put out there. But it is a possibility that the Trump team went into office, they looked at all of this and saw that certain things have been, hoaxed up or compromised in such a way by the Democrats and by the deep state that putting it out as is without actually carefully reviewing the material or releasing, the credible parts, which he says, which he's still open to now. He's talking about releasing credible information, and he's also talking about investigating the hoax. So potentially there's, people involved. They're fired from the Southern District of New York, Comey's daughter, who was one of the people involved in investigating this. So there are so many layers over years and years and years of Democrats, the Bidens, the Clintons, so many hands on this. Comey, who, other day was talking about assassinating Donald Trump, like insane people that hate Donald Trump that have touched these files and have been involved. And I don't blame Trump for, calling it a hoax if he is genuinely seeing something that they've tried to engineer. So for when it's released, it causes problems for the Trump administration. And the only thing you need to look at, Avi, is just how much mainstream media in America, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, are jumping up and down for these files to be released. The Democrats are putting through motions in the Congress to put these through, in the Senate to put these files through and get access to these files. So clearly they've engineered something that is going to be a problem for the Trump administration. That's what I genuinely feel. And I think there is a bit of truth to maybe what Trump is saying, only because I'm saying this because they ran a guy in Biden who had dementia, who they controlled. They potentially, engineered some type of COVID deception type thing during the 2020 election. That result is somewhat dubious, according to Donald Trump himself. They tried to put him in jail. They took his, multiple court cases against Trump. They have been trying to take out President Trump now for years and years and years. And why not? Why not give President Trump the poison chalice of the Epstein files, the one thing that the MAGA people have pushed so much? Why not give that to him to now fracture his base? Because they've done it in such a way where if he were to release it the exact way that they had been promising, it would be a massive, massive issue for the Trump administration.
I think Trump's biggest mistake here is dismissing it, especially only for the fact that, he campaigned about it. They did at least use it. Everyone involved.
Well, look, he didn't campaign about it. Like I see people.
Did he never talk about it? Did he never talk about it?
He did not talk about it in his rallies. He answered a few questions that reporters asked him, and even in those answers that he gave, he did not commit to releasing the files. He said they would look at. He said they would look at it. He said that they got to be careful because there's innocent people involved, and that Pam Bondi.
How funny is that? Because I even believe that he campaigned on it. You're saying
no, he did not. He did not campaign on it. He did not talk about it at his rallies. He did not campaign on it. Of course, when asked by questions by journalists here and there, he did talk about the Epstein files, but it's not a part of his Agenda 47. A lot of people saying that it was a campaign promise. No, I will say though that people around him, his surrogates,
yes,
like his son,
that 100%. The
Vance, Kash Patel, all these people who are now in the administration, Dan Bongino.
Actually, you know what? You must be right. You actually, I'm such an idiot. You must be right because if you just look at the way that it was packaged on ABC, the only person that they could get closest to Trump saying that it should be released was Vance.
I mean, look, Trump has said in the past, there's videos of Trump in the past, like, making jokes about it or saying, oh...
Sure, but I'm not saying, like, he's not saying that...
Prince Andrew's on it, and, like, well, we should look at Epstein. Like, he's just making those comments throughout the years. He's always done that. He does that for so many things because obviously that's what Trump does.
No, but that is an important difference.
He did not make a direct promise, and the video that they use of him is him literally saying that they would take a look at it, and he would not have an issue necessarily releasing it, but they would have to have a look at it to see what's happened there. And Yeah, I do think they have had a look at it. I just don't buy into this thing where a lot of it now seems to be the fact that some people have come to the conclusion that it is Mossad, it is Israel. So therefore, this is what is blackmailed, and that's why it's not being released. I mean, there's more going on there.
So this is what I was getting at. I was going to say. Look, so now it makes more sense to me because I actually did think he did. I thought I remembered him campaigning. I've always said that they need to release everything there. I think they have to, and I think there has to be some sort of transparency. But now I understand why he's dismissing it because it was never actually important to him. It was never his agenda. He's made a heap of promises and he's actually he's been trying his best to keep every promise he's made, whether you like it or not. That's interesting and it makes sense, and that's why it's so easy for him to brush it off. I don't think he realizes how much of the base, though, whether they're convinced by the podcasters or they just feel like this was a thing on that has run deep for a long time, or whether that it is a Mossad, or the fact that he's on it, that they think there's no way he's done anything wrong. I think he's just dismissing it because he's just like, man, to him, it's
if you got time, there's a great video by Glenn Beck,
where he goes at three choices. I saw that.
Yeah, like that's kind of. I mean, there's the way that people are portraying this. I think it discounts what Donald Trump has been through as a president.
100%. But
he should be suspicious. Like you cannot, Avi. I don't understand why people think that these files will just be released like as is. Here you go, and then all of a sudden, all these things. Happen as
well. The other point is also there's a lot of like potential. So there's a lot of allegations, and so once somebody's named, you'd have to also name their accuser and give them the right to defend themselves because
Well, that's the other thing. Years and years of litigation on people if you just release people's names who had nothing to do with it, just because they were on. Because that list itself. That list is a creation of the podcasters, the media, and the Trump, and even Democrats, right? That list itself, the only thing that's closest to a list is his like black book type thing, which is a contact list, which is a contact book that's got everyone and their dog on it, everyone and their mother's on that list. And, as soon as that list starts out in the public eye, what do you think happens? Everyone's guilty.
Yeah,
so
look, all I hope from here, I hope the smart play that he does is that they somehow, because we don't know what's actually there, but there somehow is transparency as in how do they come to the conclusion that they come, but also that makes it super clear whether or not he was a Mossad, because I'm ready to bet now. I'm ready to bet now that he wasn't. Do I say that it's nothing he's ever had has been used? If I had to put money either way, I would bet against him just because I know his history with Israel. Like the only connection that they ever have with him and the Mossad is one, Ehud Barak, because he sucked up to Ehud Barak, who was a former Israeli prime minister, who's like.
He was photographed going there.
And it's the same guy that they now use against Bibi. So it's like, so you're saying that, because he hates Bibi, so you're saying that it's controlled by Israel, the Mossad, to help Bibi, but it's the guy that hates Bibi. Like, it's just such a long, especially because everybody and their dog, like you say, had this connection to Jeffrey Epstein. There are clearly sickos that had connections to Jeffrey Epstein, but was it a Mossad operation? I'll bet against it. And that's what I would. So my point is, I would want him to transparently release what they can, but at the same time, and this would be smart for him, because I think this is a good moment for, and from his Truth Social post, it seems like that's what he wants to say, and that's what he's kind of saying. He goes, these guys that were once my supporters, and these were guys that were probably more supporters in 2016, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, and in the lead up to the last election were at different points rallying against him, whether it was in the primaries or actually in the lead up to the election, whatever. He's saying these people that were once supporters have fallen for the bull, whatever that statement that they played of him. This is his chance to, and these are all the guys that are like 100%. This is a Mossad op. They've got him. They're blackmailing him. So this is his chance to nuke him, because these guys are still hurting from predicting World War III from his Iran, his amazing Iran operation. If he can nuke them by going, here, this is actually transparent.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. I don't think, no matter what is released, if something's released that shows, FBI investigator, he's not a part of Mossad, people, what are they going to say? They're going to be like,
no, release all the files, redact the names.
If anything, whatever's released, whatever is released,
they won't accept it.
People will not accept it. People will happy. This conspiracy will go on for the end of time. Prince Andrew is out there. He's had, allegations made by people who directly name him. Nothing happened to him. Nothing will happen to anyone else that is in his circle.
I know. It needs to be some good move to break this down, or just move on and win.
Yeah, but I think one thing that Trump has done really is he's brought a lot of attention to this issue, whether that's on purpose or not. I tend to believe that Trump is not stupid. He's someone that understands that his words, his action, his tweets have intended purposes to raise attention, usually media attention. So this has massive attention now from the Democrats and the media, biting at at his toes, nipping, right? They want this out there because they think this is going to get Trump. So I think the best thing the Trump administration can do, like you said, is release the files. I don't think they can release all the files, as people are asking. It has to be things which are obviously, you can't release child. There's people asking for the child porn and stuff. It's pretty sick, weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
And what they're saying is a lot of that is literally just videos and material that Epstein himself kept for himself. So many people, whenever we
but if there are adults in that, then they need.
If there are adults in that, that's a different story. But then again, the level of evidence you'd need to understand to get.
No, I'm saying like they should be named. They should be named.
Oh yeah, of course, 100%. But the other thing that people say is, if none of this happened, then why is Maxwell in jail? Like, I see that comment, like, on every.
Yeah, but was she actually in jail? She's in jail for. I've seen this.
She's in jail for human trafficking to him, and procuring minors to him.
I know, that's because I always say
black and white.
Yeah, I always see it's like the Dave Smiths and all those. They're always like, even Piers Morgan says that the only person that's in jail for no crime then is Ghislaine Maxwell. She's actually there for trafficking.
She's in jail for a crime.
For trafficking for him, and that's the loose connection that they make between him and allegedly the Mossad is that her dad apparently was part of Mossad or whatever. You know what? I want if the Mossad had any part in it, I would love it to be out there. Put it to bed. Let us know exactly what happened. And I think Trump, if like the problem is, I know what you're saying. Like with these characters, there's no way to be able to ever, because it doesn't matter what you release, they're going to say you're hiding something, right? Especially now, because it's been handled so badly, and that whole thing with the binders, it was just so stupid. And I think heads should roll in the Trump administration just for how badly they handled it, because they were trying to play this game like nobody would notice that the binders you gave them was what was already in the public domain, just more redacted. Like, it was just so stupid. It was just not like everything else. See, Trump's done is like handling everything else like a pro. The things that matter to him, and it's like they let the interns who thought that they could trick the conspiracy corner of the internet, which I also subscribe to a little bit. Like, I want to know. Like, it's weird that he killed himself.
I mean, 100%. His death is weird.
Is weird,
there's
dodgy,
unexplained things. The way that it's been handled is definitely weird. Jeffrey Epstein having people over at that weird island, procuring these girls, even though no one else has been charged for it besides Maxwell for giving it to him, getting those girls for him. 100%, I completely believe that there were other men on that island that were going there and engaging in these acts, illegal acts with minors and other women, whatever. That was definitely happening on that island, and Jeffrey Epstein is a creep. And the people around him going to that island, perhaps blackmailed, compromised, all these things. Now, what of that in terms of evidence do they have to get people and who's involved? Now, a lot of people will say, because of the high-profile nature of the people involved that went to that island, that is why that is being covered up, that it's been hidden. I don't necessarily think it's just that. I think it's just there is literally almost impossible levels of lack of concrete evidence in terms of where you can litigate against some of these individuals to get them on these things. And if you're talking about people who are high profile, who are rich and powerful, you're talking about decades and decades of litigation that will go absolutely nowhere. So I think they've had a look at it, and they might have seen that this is the case. One, what they hyped up might have not lived up to the expectations of what people wanted. And two, which is a definite possibility, knowing the Democrats and the deep state, they could have just tampered with just little bits of things that they put in there that somehow put all of this on the foot of Donald Trump. It is completely possible that there's some for Trump to go in that hard to take on his base on this issue, right, and to really push back against it. They must have put something in there or done something that just releasing it, it would be hard for them to avoid releasing whatever they did.
Let me say this. I want all the transparency that is around this thing. Whatever it is, whether it was actually a big intelligence operation, whether it was Mossad, whether it's CIA, whether it's the Brit, whoever, whatever. I want all the and if it was nothing, if we were all just fell for this conspiracy, I would love as much transparency as possible. However, the silver lining at this current moment that I see is that crowd that have become horrible and toxic on the right have now, especially if there really is nothing to it. Like if Trump knows, like they don't want to release they don't want to like release everything because of all the other issues, and there's genuinely nothing that they're being dodgy about, or that it's all been scraped and mucked with before. But let's say Trump knows there's nothing dodgy there, and these guys have come up against him hard, and they've driven a wedge between Trump. And so I feel like this is the moment that may help, that we kind of needed to shed the kind of mugger, the right wing, the Trump base, the real base, not the podcast bros, and not the people that think that they're it. And they might have convinced a few people in the short term, but I feel like Trump has that much longer in his administration. Like it's very short-sighted to bet against him at this point. Like I could see you doing this towards the end of his administration, but right now he's got like 3 more years. Trump is going to get so much done in that time. He's going to have so many wins. Look how many wins he had in this short time. And you're going to be on the outside now. Like Tucker Carlson has put himself, like he keeps positioning himself, and Candace Owens, all these people.
Now they're saying they're going to hold Trump accountable. Now they're saying we're MAGA. We're going to help, MAGA doesn't need Trump. We're MAGA, right? That's
why I'm hoping for the transparency, and I'm happy that they're doing it, because they're putting themselves in a position where
if you think about it, just one more point that I wanted to make. People are like, oh, the Democrats, tainted the files and they conspired and did stuff to get Trump. Why didn't they release it earlier? But if you think about this as a grand scheme, this is the perfect play from the deep state and from the Democrats. This is perfect. Whatever disharmony you're seeing now in the Trump administration, this massive distraction, the infighting that is caused with the Trump administration, whatever they did, let's say they did do something, it doesn't have to be anything that's of consequence or, whatever. It can just be the end result can be what's happening to Trump right now and the country, because this is a massive distraction. It takes away from Trump's agenda.
Yeah.
And, he's kind of put into this corner. Really, he is. And we rarely see him in a position like this, especially against his own side. So normally he's yelling at Democrats. He's been put into a corner with his own team. Everyone's now kind of saying, we want the files, we want the files. So it's a masterstroke by the deep state if they wanted to use something like this to destabilize the Trump admin going into the midterms. Like, all of that kind of makes sense to me, because I've just seen over the, since 2016, how crazy these people are and how evil they are when it comes to going after Donald Trump. So, of course, let's say that the people that are saying, we just put it out, and they're saying things like, oh, well, the American people, they'll understand, they'll decide. No, you know what? They went to impeach Trump over a phone call Zelensky or whatever. Like, remember that? That's what they impeached him on over a perfectly fine phone call. Like, they will find absolutely any little tidbit they can and drag it on for 2, 3, 4 years or the rest of his administration, and push him down so he can't achieve his agenda. And that's exactly, I think, what's happening here. Again, it's unfortunate that it's played out like this, but I think the Democrats, the deep state, have pulled a fast one on the Trump administration, and they've been caught with their pants down.
That's your prediction.
I definitely feel like that's what's happened. Just watching what the things that Trump is saying, that they've kind of set him up a little bit, and it's compromised the way that they would have hoped to go in there. Kash Patel, Bongino, these guys would have hoped to go in there, check, go through these files and just release it.
Yeah, if there was a smoking gun in there, those guys would have done it. And if you and like, look, read this comment, because it kind of makes a good point.
Cruel intentions. If Trump was on the list, then the Dems would have released it years ago. I want justice for the girls Epstein handed around. Don't care if he was an asset or whatever. Maxwell in jail for that. Yeah, I mean, very legitimate comment.
Yeah.
And they would have definitely released it years ago if they had anything on him completely. The poison chalice are these files. Like, it's been put on Trump's lap. Like, he has said he will release it. They've poisoned the well, and now it's up to him if he wants to put it out and deal with the consequences. And we have to, consider that some of the things that Donald Trump is saying is true in terms of what they might have done in that time they've had access to the files.
One more super chat.
Abby King, thanks to Super Chat. What does being on the list specifically mean? Trump is a ladies' man. It's not difficult to put someone in a compromising position and blackmail them. Love him, but he gets himself into pickles. I mean, being on the list, again, that list
it's no secret that everybody knew
everybody
Epstein.
knew him.
Epstein was the guy that just put himself in the middle of everything.
Prince Andrew was visiting an American businessman. You got the former prime minister or president of Israel, right? You're saying visiting Epstein. So you have all these high flyers.
Bill Gates' wife said she left him because he was obsessed with going to Epstein, and that was after he was charged. Everybody else cut their associations earlier.
Yeah, and so many people know him, and there's also people that he might have tried to talk himself and try to get to know as well.
Bill Gates is definitely the creepy one here, because he's one of the only people that after he was
well, if nerds like him are going to the Epstein Island, it's a bit creepy.
But look, I think that's what people want. People want justice for the victim. They also, if there is some big conspiracy, everyone wants to know. And like, it's fair enough. You know what? I have no problem with people wanting answers to whether it was a intelligence operation by whatever intelligence agency. I know a lot of the people pushing the agenda are doing it from a bad faith position because they want to pin it on Israel. That's why I'm dying for even more transparency in this moment, so that it can be proven that these guys are they're wishful thinking. And it's almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because they can go, oh, look, they're not, they can always claim, because they don't have any you know what? Somebody there in that group need to put up some evidence if that's what they're saying. Like, it's easy just to make the allegation with no evidence, and by saying that the lack of evidence is your proof. It isn't your proof. I personally think am advocating for transparency, no matter the outcome. Yep. But I dare say that if there was any of that, they would still release it. Like, you're deluded to think that.
Yeah. Look, none of these podcasters or whatever that have said there's evidence of these links have released concrete evidence,
and nothing.
Where any person could look at it objectively and be like, okay. Cool,
Ephraim sent us a super chat. Ephraim, look, I'm worried to put that on the thing, but thank you for the super chat. Look, there's certain things that might get us banned, and he knows what he wrote, and it might get us banned, so I'm just not going to post it, but I appreciate the super chat, and especially that it was in shekels.
Laura, bros, what the heck happened with Trump and Musk? I don't know. I think that's all just a public display. Musk is being Musk as he can. Just the other day, he signed a contract with the U.S. government, Pentagon, for $200 million to provide AI tools for the government. So, as far as his relationship with the U.S. Trump administration goes, he's getting massive contracts for his companies. his desire to create a different party and to challenge Trump and all these kind of things. I think it's all theatrics.
Yeah.
It's all theatrics. He might do it. He might do something. He might support some people. He can. He's got cash to throw around. He's got
he's going to put money behind what's his name?
He'll do those things, but
I hope they fail. I like Elon. I hope they fail.
I mean, Elon's just like pushing
his self-interest as well.
He's poking the hornet's nest.
He's doing a lot of that. He's having fun, but he's also the problem I find with Elon in these matters is that it's often out of very much self-interest, and there's also just what in fact the media were and a lot of pundits, especially on the left, were right about those two personalities, that they were bound to crash at some point. You can't have two kind of alpha leadership. Like Trump has to be number one in his in his world, especially since his last administration, where he did let people kind of take over his agenda because he didn't have enough confidence in his own understanding of the political game. This time he came out, he's completely in control, and that's why he's lashing out at all these things, and that's why I'm happy for these guys.
I mean, Trump has I don't know if you've noticed, last maybe month, 2 months, he's taken a bit of a more serious tone. I think when he kind of swore near the cameras at the end when Iran or Israel, that thing happened with the bombings, and he said they don't know what the F they're doing. He has taken a more stern turn, even with his own base. So I think he really wants to put a stamp on what he wants to do.
What he gets to get done. He doesn't care who's in the way. He wants his agenda. And you know what? I think.
Well, he's only got three years. It's going to fly past. He's got 3 years. There's so much more to do. He's done a lot already. There's so much more to do. How much can you be bogged down in
this nonsense?
Twitter wars and stuff on X and people's complaints and Israel and Mossad and all this kind of thing. If the Israel and Palestine issue was not happening right now and Trump was the president, do you think people would care so much about the Epstein things? Like that's made that issue a bigger issue for certain people who have gone down that path. Like that's become the main thing now. So there's all those things.
It's the perfect ammunition that they needed, and they think they see it as an easy goal, and to a degree they're right. But I think still it's short-sighted, and I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad they're positioning themselves like that because you can see Trump seeing them for who they are, and that's what we need, and that's what I wanted early on in his administration.
And he's going to steamroll them. This is the thing. Like they think they can take on Trump. Trump has destroyed the Democrats.
Let's pivot because we are running out of time. So let's quickly watch. This is the other story making headlines in the last day.
There are hopes sectarian violence will ease in southern Syria after Israel bombed the heart of the capital, Damascus, in an operation it says was aimed at defending the minority Druze community. The powerful airstrikes were captured live on television. The Defence Ministry headquarters was struck. The force of the blast caused part of the building to collapse. Local officials say 3 people were killed and dozens of others were injured.
There was an Israeli airstrike on the Ministry of Defence. There were a number of martyrs and injured. Of course, there were some injured among civilians because the ministry's building is surrounded entirely by civilian buildings, of course.
Police were forced to take cover during the Israeli assault. Israel has taken an aggressive stance towards Syria's new leadership after rebels ousted the dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad in a lightning offensive last December. The new regime had sent troops to quell sectarian violence between local Bedouin clans and Druze armed factions in the south. But the fighting quickly spiralled, leaving scores of people dead. Syria's Druze community follows a religion derived from Islam. About half...
Let me just correct a couple of things in there. It's like they paint it as like, just violence broke out. No. So Bedouin armed gangs
travel to the mostly Druze minority area, which and also Christians, by the way, but mostly Druze, and started massacring Druze. And then when the army, the so-called army, the Islamist armies then came, who were supposed to, by these, the official public order to stop the fighting, they joined in the massacres against the Druze minority. That's what. So it wasn't just like violence broke out and some people got killed. That's the way they're presenting it. It was Islamists were doing what Islamists do. They were butchering innocent minority, right?
A lot of this is verifiable. I mean, the ABC, for them not to report it accurately, because those military people, wearing their ISIS patches as well, were on video proclaiming what they're going to do when they get to the town. Like, this is all out there publicly. I mean, they're very proud of it. It's verified information as to who those individuals are and what military they're a part of. And they were saying on video that they're going to go do this, and they did.
Members live in Syria. Many are in the suburbs of Damascus, but they're mostly concentrated in the southern Suwaida region bordering Jordan. Most of the other Druze live in Lebanon and Israel, including the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. The transitional government, led by President Ahmed al-Shara, promised to include minorities.
When did he change his name? Wasn't he
The government
Jolan?
has listed only one Druze member.
Did he?
The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, says Israel's actions is to protect the Druze.
My brothers, the Druze citizens of Israel, the situation in Suwaida, the situation in southwestern Syria is very serious. The IDF is operating. The Air Force is operating. Other forces are operating. We are acting to save our Druze brothers and to eliminate the regime's gangs.
Hundreds of members of the Druze community have poured over the border from the Golan Heights in a show of solidarity. Many have expressed anger at the new Syrian leadership.
Well, I have especially a big family there, that they suffer a lot there. They have been killed, and it's hard for us to stand here not doing anything.
We are calling all the world to help us and to call the government, if we can call this a government, to stop those terrorist attacks on our people. And that's why we are here on the border, to reach our voice to all over the world to stop this killing.
Syrian government forces have been seen moving out of Suwaida after a ceasefire was reached, but it remains fragile. The last truce quickly broke down. The US is hoping this new agreement will last.
We think we're on our way towards a real de-escalation, and then hopefully get back on track in helping Syria build a country and arriving at a situation there in the Middle East is far more stable. So in the next few hours, we hope to see some real progress to end what you've been seeing.
Okay, so just a backstory, because most people until today wouldn't even know what a Druze is. Okay, they're a minority in the Middle East that live mostly in between Syria, Israel, so southern Syria, northern Israel, and in southern Lebanon, right? Now, the reason why for Israel, the only reason why Israel would really were being pressured by the Druze, that's the point, is the Druze community were demanding Israel step in. The Druze community in Israel are one of the most loyal to the state. So they have their own army units. They're Arabs, but they're not. They say they're derived from Islam. They're not Muslims. They're like their own religion. It's their own religion of the Middle East, and they're a lot more indigenous than Palestinians, let's say. Like no one even argues it. Like they're from there, but they've always been persecuted by Muslims and by all these different groups. And so in Israel, they've been they're a celebrated people. They're really loved, right? So when they started seeing their cousins getting butchered, they were demanding that the Israeli government do something to protect exactly their family on the other side of the border, in kind of the area between Israel and where the terrorists kind of, they're stronger, where the Islamist government kind of stronger.
So from Israel, there's an internal political reason to support the Druze, because the Druze people of Israel are very highly respected and loved in Israeli society, and as a part of a people that don't have to, but they essentially volunteer to be a part of the like the military and whatever, part of the country, right? In a way that, like I said, they have their own military units that are really useful because they speak Arabic. They would to most people. You even see the way he speaks English. His accent is like Arabic, and they're super loyal, great fighters, and they love Israel because Israel is a safe haven. Who would have thought a minority, Israel is the biggest safe haven for them? And so when Israel wasn't stepping in, they literally were breaching the border. That's what you were seeing there. And you see, you see all the Israeli soldiers there. They're literally breaching the border, and the Israeli soldiers are not stopping them because they're Israeli citizens that are loved and not. There's no animosity there. In fact, recently we saw for the first time the Druze came from Syria after the Assad regime fell. They did there was like a march of Druze from Syria into Israel to see. So there's a close relation, and a lot of Druze have called for Israel to kind of annex that area to protect them or whatever. Now, there's also then the grey area. Israel obviously wants to ensure that buffer zone that's not taken. So there's a few layers to the incentive by the state of Israel to ensure. Obviously, the Druze are good people, and they're a peaceful minority that are essentially allies. They also play, even if Israel doesn't annex that area, but they're at least a buffer between them and any potential jihadis, the ones that you saw in the West. So it goes deeper than. But what I found extraordinary here is that all the people online that have made the claims that Israel was the one that got Jolani or whatever his new name in, like the Islamists to power, and it was all a Zionist plot, and it was just he's an Israeli puppet.
Yeah.
And that we're condemning him as Al-Qaeda, which is true. He's a goddamn Islamist. Suddenly condemning Israel for attacking his regime, for defending the exact minorities they pretended to care about and said that he was going to target. So when their prophecy came true, and who knows? I don't actually think Jolani has. I think it's like he doesn't really have control. I think it's like
that's what it feels like.
It's the military. Like I feel like he wants to relationships and try to. He wants peace because he wants power. And he realized, that's what I feel is the legit. But the problem is he's lost control because, they all know he's a jihadi because they're all jihadis. And jihadis are going to do what jihadis do. And so I fully support Israel defending the Druze community there and doing what it takes to make sure that border and those communities are safe. Good on them. I just find it hilarious that the people that said that he was an Israeli puppet are suddenly condemning him, condemning Israel for defending the exact people they said he was going to kill, and this is Israel's puppet that was going to do it. It's just
there's hypocrisy in that. I think there's also been a lot of hypocrisy online in the fact that the same people that say they're humanitarians, human rights, especially from the West, who kind of look at these issues and be like, oh, what about saving innocents and stuff like this? They completely ignored the massacre of the Druze.
Yeah.
There's some horrific videos online. Just a humiliation of men. In terms of
cutting the beards,
cutting beards, murdering old people, shooting up hospitals and just killing everyone in there. So there's verifiable videos of this coming out, and a lot of these same people that make it a massive issue about one thing, all of a sudden, they don't want to touch this. And like you said, the Druze, they're not.
No.
Jewish.
Not only they didn't want to touch it, they suddenly they've gone against they've somehow gone against Israel again.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing that as well. And like you said, I do believe this Jolani guy's lost complete control, because even their Ministry of Defense put out a statement semi-condemning what the out of control jihadis are doing. And there's all these different factions, they're all fighting each other. And it just looks like this evil, ancient hate that just does not go away.
And I saw ABC reports when I had it playing the whole time. Later, they were interviewing a guy who happens to be he's obviously an Arab, and he's like, he has to tell the background story as it is, because I didn't even know but he was some sort of Arab. Yeah. And so he's actually telling the truth about the whole Druze and that back. But then he goes on to say, and so Israel's taking the opportunity to cause destabilization in Syria, because for them, the last thing they want is a strong regime. And it's like, it's such nonsense that's being played on to an audience in Australia who have no idea about. Why would Israel want a destabilized Syria? In fact, people were starting to look forward to potential Abraham Accords extending to Syria. Like, Israel wants stable neighbors. The last thing you want is jihadis running everywhere that could potentially breach the Israeli borders. They want a stable Syria. They just don't want a jihadi on their border, and they want to support their Druze community, because the community matters to them, to the entire Israeli population almost. Like, you see the most radical right-wing Israeli Jew, they're very pro the Druze.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just Israel. Even the Trump administration met with this Jelani guy. So international world has reached out as well to try to normalize these relationships. And clearly, I don't think anyone wants to destabilize Syria. Anyone that's serious about the Abraham Accords and peace in that region wants to destabilize Syria. But unfortunately, there's a lot of wackos, and I've already seen a few other militias take up arms now against Jolani. So, that could spiral into something else. But as far as I can tell, in terms of Israel's intentions, right now it seems to be just about protecting that area in terms of dissuading the Israeli.
And everyone's asking, why did they bomb even if the military is against? Well, look what happened. As soon as they did that, what's happened? Ceasefire, and they've all the regime forces and the Bedouin all left the area. So whatever Israel did, they knew what they were doing. It was effective and it worked immediately. So it's easy to be that military at home. What do they call it? Armchair critic who knows everything about every military operation. And dude, you didn't even know what a Druze was yesterday. Sit this one out, eh, Habibi? It's true.
I knew what they were.
I'm saying, because you probably filmed some of their weddings. But I'm just saying, on the internet, all these clowns that have the big going off about it and that were anti-Jolani, but now support, they didn't yesterday know what a Druze was, and that is so often the story in that part of the world, any part of the world that there's a conflict or whatever, and these people overnight become geopolitical experts.
Well, I mean, a lot of the commentary from those kind of accounts online, there's American accounts that are kind of very anti-Jew at the moment. Were like, oh, what's Israel bombing now?
Yeah.
It was kind of this, like, they played dumb in terms of what was happening with the massacre of the Druze at that particular moment, and it was just like, oh, well, what are they bombing now? And it's unfortunate that it's come to that, but that's kind of what we're dealing with.
All right, one super chat. I've got a couple last stories we've got to get through.
Laura, thanks for the super chat, bros. It was prophesied in the OT destruction, Old Testament destruction of Damascus. The road to Saul walked as a Roman, and God blinded him and asked, "Why are you doing this to me?" That's very deep, Laura, but we will take that as a statement. I'm sure that might inspire a few people to look into what you're talking about as well.
All right, let's pivot into the next story. We've got two more stories to cover, so let's smash it.
Surveying the vast span of Chinese history.
21,000 kilometres.
The Prime Minister stepping across the reaches of the Great Wall.
Anyone happen to be a celebrant here?
This is
such a funny guy.
One of the wonders of the world.
With a nod to Australian political history as well.
The Prime Minister following in the footsteps of his predecessors, Malcolm Fraser and Labor leader Gough Whitlam, who visited the same stretch of the wall in 1971 after declaring he'd recognise the People's Republic of China if he won office.
He expanded Australia's horizons, and that was really important for us as a nation.
The Prime Minister believes Whitlam has been vindicated by history, but Anthony Albanese's path forward may be more narrow and treacherous.
The symbolism here is clear. By retracing Gough Whitlam's steps across this extraordinary structure more than 5 decades ago, the Prime Minister is trying to draw parallels with the Labor legend who opened up Australia's relationship with the People's Republic of China. Just like then, the relationship now is complex, but the stakes for Australia are much higher because China is much more wealthy and much more powerful.
Last night, China's second most senior leader lavished attention on the Prime Minister. Beijing knows Canberra has been unsettled by the Trump administration's tariff chaos and spots an opportunity to nudge Australia away from its main ally.
No matter how the world changes, you should be promoters of economic and trade cooperation.
The Prime Minister agrees, but is never going to criticise the US while in China.
I say the same thing in Beijing as I say in Bankstown, which is that the Australian government supports free and fair trade.
Australia and China may share history, but their visions for the region's future remain starkly different. Stephen Jedgetts, ABC News, Beijing.
It's so performative, but the whole thing about reenacting, the previous leaders, the same war, the same stretch, so much theatrics going on there. And this whole trip obviously shrouded in some type of mystery as well, because they've limited media coverage. The Chinese state has taken a particular, I would say, not a fondness to the Australian media. They've treated them like garbage, really. And Albanese, I think unfortunately, he is selling out Australia. His inability to get the Trump administration on side to even despite China being our biggest export partner, I think we are more aligned. At least I believe we should be more aligned with the West, with America, one of our most important partners, definitely when it comes to defense. And I don't know if you saw the story, Avi, like during the day that he was going to China, when the Pentagon asked whether the Australian government would commit to the American side if a war were to break out over Taiwan. So that's how shaky the relationship now is between Australia and the Americans, especially as Albanese is cozying up to the Chinese. He's very much, he looks like the meek, weak leader when he's in Beijing. It is not
it's embarrassing
position of equality or leadership. No, that's completely gone.
It's embarrassing and dangerous.
It's dangerous. I think. I don't know if this is the alignment that Australia wants going forward. If China needs our export goods, yeah, fine, they need it. You export it to them. How we kowtow to them, I don't think that's in our interest whatsoever.
No way. Look, they are legitimately our enemy. And in the current world, in the current climate, if we're cozying up to them and neglecting America, we are up for a world of pain, because we are literally sitting ducks. Unfortunately, we 100% need America. And that's, years of governments from both sides have nurtured the relationship with America in a way that we do have, they should have our backs. But at the moment, it looks like Albanese is.
What would have Trump done in that situation? Let's say Trump goes there and he meets these people. He would have said, because recently we had the Chinese spy ships or whatever around the Australian coast. Trump would have at least brought that stuff up. He would have said, we don't appreciate that in a public setting. Albanese has no backbone to put anything out there like that. He is literally just being all friendly, not raising any of the concerns. Maybe they did it in private. Who knows? We'll never know about that. But as far as it goes, it's just like a promotional tour. He's
it is funny the point you make that he just he replayed the, historic footage. He really wants it again. He wants to be that guy.
It is not that time in the world. Like that ABC actually said, like that was when Australia's position was very different.
Yeah.
Australia is no longer that.
And you saw even in the last couple of days, the Australian media, the approved media that went with him, were all rounded up, had their phones seized, they had to view their footage. China is not our friend. They are not our friend. It's fine for them to be our trading partner.
Never done that. They would have never done that to Russian media. You have to understand the difference. Russian media would never have been that would never have happened to the Russian media and the US media, but to Australian media, that's how much disdain they have for Australia. They do not care. It's just a different level.
All right, we're running late, so let's smash through some of these super chats and then hit our last story. That's an astonished face, actually, an emoji, a frame. He's probably a little bit shocked by that story. I don't think you should be shocked. Don't be surprised. That is exactly what Labor is about, and expect a lot more of that.
Varun, thanks for super chat. Anyone else sick of Albo and his taxpayer bread? I think the wedding's on, right? There's something. Wedding has happened.
He was trying to get China to pay for it.
Cruel intentions. Australia should never elect the illegitimate son of an Italian cruise ship toilet cleaner, especially one with public commie associations. I think the last part is probably more concerning than him being the illegitimate son of an Italian cruise ship toilet cleaner.
No, yeah, we don't mind that part, but the commie thing is super scary. All right, let's pivot to the last story just because we're really running out of time.
One more story.
Do you want to do the Polish rights? The Spanish
rights?
Spanish.
We'll save that for next time, I reckon.
Save it for next time? Yeah,
a lot to cover there.
All right, we'll save that one for next time. All right, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate you. Remember, before you leave, hit that like button, share it, let people catch up. I think it was a great episode. Thank you, everyone, for the super chats. And make sure whatever platform you're watching on, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you again on Tuesday. Rukshan, where can people find you?
Yeah, guys, definitely look me up on X, Facebook, and YouTube at The Real Rukshan. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, or follow on those platforms, and you can catch up with the other stuff that I do throughout the week. But like Ivy said, we'll be back next week on Tuesday on the Opposition Podcast at 7 p.m.
And guys, follow avi.com. You can find all my socials there. Sorry we didn't get to that last story, but we'll save it for next time because we got sidetracked by the great super chats. But that's just the way it rolls. We love you. Until Tuesday, have a safe weekend. Don't do anything Rukshan would do.
See you guys.